as the solution to more problems than is reasonable, and somehow people still manage to call IT anyway. All right, we've given that one a reset right there. I'm just going to refresh the YouTube page and see. Yes, we are now live on the YouTubes.
Very good, very good. All right, Tank Tom's doing nothing that I can criticize now apart from running out on energy, but I think that is because the wind is quite low.
It's not too bad. It's climbing back up now, so it's only a very minor stall. One of the things you can do to mitigate that in the early stage of the game is go straight into a Lazarus and just set it to area grab anything in the middle. You'll get about your fair share or more.
I think the next thing he's got to do, like, it's weird that he's skipped the 2 medals in the middle before going to the outside. You'd think you'd get them on the way because then you'd realize your medal earlier.
I think that may have just been a mistake. Look where he's built his wins, and he had his builder starting to build one already, and it has faded away. I think this was just using the area max command and starting it too close to the front compared to the back, so they all walked past them, trying to find that optimal order, but instead found the unoptimal order.
I do like that he's put down an energy storage now, so he can drag that slider down when he needs the metal the most. And he'll probably also reclaim that T1 bot lab quite shortly, as soon as he's got his last of his mexes up and going to that T2 transition, hopefully getting the lab up sub 5.5 minutes. I reckon it's a good goal for where he's at right now. Just going to quickly check on the other side. Cookie Destroyer going into his usual. He loves to do a bot lab, then a vehicle lab, transitioning to vehicles. I mean, I can't criticize it. It's not breaking any rules.
I do that.
But yeah, it is true that you got more build power and more speed out of the vehicles, so it makes sense to transition. Going into the bots first makes sense because you do have that little bit more metal to play with then, and detonating his commander to get even more metal. Something that I don't do much in King of the Hill is detonate the commander. I always get too nervous that it'll get reclaimed by someone on an area reclaim command, which has happened to me quite a few times.
The way I look at it is that the comm is actually generating twice as much metal as you would expect, and about 50% more metal and energy than you'd expect over the course of the game. It actually ends up being quite huge, and I never seem to run into issues with having enough metal to get that T2 lab. I also tend to get it down at around about the 4-minute 30 mark as well. So I'm not... I definitely am not as good a player as Cookie, which means that what I do is not necessarily the best way to go about it. But I've found myself in a position where I haven't needed to do it in Kings in a very, very long time, and so I don't, just to mitigate that risk. Like exactly what's happening here, where we have 2 different teams reclaiming that one comm. Sorry, 2 different players reclaiming that one comm.
He's bottomed out on metal for quite a while. It's been quite a slow T2 lab. He should be reclaiming the T1 metal storage.
Oh, definitely.
Because he doesn't need that. He can rebuild them. He also should have been dropping that slider for the energy conversion down as early as he could have. Obviously still building them. Maybe get a second constructor, even the commander, building some more converters. Now that he's over 1,000 energy per second, we want to see at least double the amount of converters down than he's got right now. Maybe not quite double, but getting there. The focus is getting on these vectors up right now to T2.
What he's doing right now is he is moving that build power ahead of time. It's slightly mistimed, so a little bit of the metal is going to go into the extra metal converter. But what you're doing is just making sure there isn't time lost between with the builder moving while something is already complete. Just a slight bit of optimization there. Now that he has the 2 of them up, Tommy's going into a 3rd and a 4th T2 construction bot. I would only go into the 2 of them because you can reclaim that lab and go straight into the fusion. But you do also want to get a bit more build power up. 4 is not enough to go into that fusion, but you do need to make that reclaim choice in order to make it happen. One thing that I have noticed is Tank Tom does build some of his wind farms quite a bit forward. That is a time saver because the bots that are out there are just going to build them exactly where they are after they finish those final mexes. They can then also be in a good position to help build defenses, but it does also mean that that eco is nice and far forward. Does look like we do have a rattlesnake going down.
Okay.
In range of
on
Tank
Tom's
Tom.
base. That will get removed shortly. It's a gauntlet, yeah. Ping that a couple of times to the mods, that'll disappear. Tom did throw down an advanced energy converter just because he had so much overflow. If I was him, I would have probably just gone straight into the fusion. Simply building the fusion would have dropped his metal down, and having all the build power on that. Obviously, right now it's reclaiming the lab, which it needs to do, but you'll see that energy drop straight away as soon as it jumps back to the fusion.
And that is part of the setup of doing this, is getting that additional build power. You've got to really push that through ahead of the fusion. You have to balance out exactly how much wind you're earning and how much you're going to be chucking into the fusion. Tank Tom is currently earning just over 1,000 energy, which means that he can support 20 construction turrets, but you wouldn't actually want to go into 20 just yet, because you want to get that fusion up and running. We do have 8 minutes to go. The fusion's going to be up probably at the 8-minute 30. And then Tank Tom has to go into units. There is certainly some optimization that could be done here, but all in all, not too bad. If you're a king and you're getting a single fusion up with the T2 lab, the build power, and some units for that 10-minute mark, you're doing it just fine. You can definitely optimize that a bit more, but nothing to worry about too much there.
It looks like Tank Tom's got his base underway. He's going to have that second fusion up, I reckon, just over the 9-minute mark, with probably T2 units coming out. So let's just see what we're up against. I'm only seeing 1, 2, 3 peasant lanes being swarmed with units. Sorry, 4. There's a few pawns there on the left. We do have some, I do love incisors up on the top right. I'd like to see them rush in quite quickly. They are going to be up against a couple beamers, but I don't think that's going to be enough to stop that many incisors. Tank Tom is against Janice. I like that.
It does look like at that 10-minute mark, the lanes that are going to be pushed the hardest are Tank Tom's and just let me pull that one up. And I pawn you. Those are the lanes. If you zoom out and you bandbox the entire map, all of the white units are offensive units. The King's just starting to get some of their own out. Tank Tom very light on defenses, and he's going to be pushed by Blitzers and Janice. Janice can actually trade very well against T2 units, provided that there aren't too many T2 units in the mix. With 15 seconds to go,
Jags.
I do like Jags. With 15 seconds to go, 10 seconds to go, Twig, who do you think is poised to be at advantage at the 10-minute mark?
I've got to say, I was completely zoomed into Tom's base almost that entire 10 minutes, so I haven't had enough time to assess, but I'm liking how many peasants have units. The only problem is where they're being positioned, and there goes the 10-minute mark. All right, I'll just guess the peasants on this one. I'm probably going to be wrong, though.
Peasants do have a couple of forces going in, and a few of them are unopposed. Especially the ones that were opposed have now moved around a lot of those defensive positions and are now looking to track their way in. Tank Tom helping to clean up the units that are attacking from below his base, and it does look like Red has mistimed their attack and hasn't gone in with everybody else. We do have a big swarm of blitzers that are heading towards the middle. They are going to take out a T2 mechs. There are a couple of LLTs and Jags here, as well as a bunch of pawns to try and clean this up, but that is quite a mass. Unfortunately, they do get stuck on themselves and on their wreckages, and are going to be able to push in well defended. And it doesn't look like the peasants have gathered a foothold. Tank Tom heading in with a few Jags. Unfortunately, those have been cleaned up as well. So no big offensive moves from anyone at the 10-minute mark, but for the 11-minute mark, we do have a massive pawn rush heading in at the top of the map. These pawns only have a single twin guard they have to deal with before they're right on into the economy. If these are managed well enough, aka if they're on even just a fight command to stop them from taking too much damage from the wind detonations, these should do monumental damage, taking out at least one player, probably potentially more. It's all going to come down to how well they stay alive. The second wave is through, and it looks like it's going to be heading in the opposite direction up the hill. So this one undefended entrance is going to turn into a collapse of multiple players. The Jags now coming up. They saw that the hole was there, and they are attacking on this lane 2. Great work defending by Mr. Artillery, using his comm to snipe most of those units, but the 1 or 2 that did make it through collapsed most of the wind and most of the energy. Really strong pushes by the Kings right here, as they managed to break an entire chunk of the map. 3 players essentially shut down right out of the gate. That's going to be a good
push
strong
down south.
Oof. This is the power of 2 economies working together and picking 1 gate to go through. There are plenty of LLTs, there are a couple of beamers, a few Dragon Claws that are trying to go down, but not quite. The comm trying to get in position to detonate, but unfortunately destroys most of the defenses as well. And this is a open season. Both the top middle and the bottom middle starting to fall very early to the Kings. Really good job working together. This is essentially a peasant strategy that the Kings have used. 1 player going T1, 1 player going T2, and then allowing the T1 units to tank for the T2 units. Much more effective going as a group than going as a one-off.
We are really seeing the result of a number of high Chev Kings. On previous weeks, you've probably seen there's always been 1 or 2 low OS or low Chev, and not really knowing what they're doing. Maybe you hadn't seen King of Hill game style yet, and it is a bit of a tricky one, especially on Raptor Crater. But all 8 players doing what they're meant to be doing, making sure that they're not leaking, and it's really showing. I'm loving how many units are getting through, and we haven't really seen that many abused T1 as Kings this early on.
Or at least not abuse T1 in an effective way. A big part of what's needed for T1 abuse is that T2 backup. You need the T1 and something heavy hitting behind them. And that's exactly what we've seen happen here. And these Jags, and Bulls that were on their own, without that T1 with them, they just lost most of their force to a single comm. And that is the power of and that's the difference of pushing together and not pushing together. And with that one area broken, I want to see the Kings getting up there and actually taking it and holding it. Getting a high ground position is very, very strong.
Oh, don't tell me bottom right. The an Aphis is up just in time to die to some ticks, maybe.
Oh no.
What I'll do is get that construction bot to interrupt the build of all these construction turrets and build a couple towers. But having said that, they could probably also reclaim.
It also looks like these have just been given fight commands, so they're not going to get quite where they need to. If you are in this position where you're getting attacked by ticks, you can reclaim them if you have that much build power, and very, very quickly at that. Also, with the way that a lot of this has been built, you can see that that small handful of conversion is going to take out way more than it should, just because it was linked up to the wind. But the wind was built properly in a row of 2, which means it wasn't going to chain react. It does look like the peasants have managed to shut the Kings out now, and they are starting to get on the offensive on this left side. We do have a good couple of snipers with a good number of T1 units in front, as well as some spam coming in for vision, as well as some Sheldons which are just firing at the ground. To be pushing on through this side. While this does look like the push is now starting to happen, but there are a lot of defenses here. You do need to plink away with these snipers, but there just isn't enough power for them to continuously fire, and the defenses here perfectly strong enough to hold this off for now. Looking to the top of the map, we've had some ramp warfare, being very back and forth over here. You can see a little bit of destruction moving up into the pink player, but now the backline players, the backline peasant players, are here with a vengeance. Some tiger tanks trying to push all of this back. Tank Tom, nice and online, using these ambassadors to just start shelling into the base without counter spam. These are going to get value with every single rocket. The spam giving good vision, which means that they're going to be firing accurately, and not much of a possible response. Once you get these in position, you can use them to blind fire to these high points on the hill.
Tigers almost getting through.
Oof. Oh,
just
Tiger's
couldn't hold.
actually getting through. Doesn't look like they're going to fully make it.
No.
But if they'd just been supported a little bit, if their backline had come online rather
Or
than
even
going
those
straight to
few
T3,
Mausers down the bottom. That
could
would
have
right. Ah.
been massive.
Just a reminder, people, the kings usually fall if just one king falls. If you get a unit or two into the middle of the base, just have a look at the middle of the map there. There's almost nothing to kill anything that gets in.
As
apart
far
from
as
reclaim.
defenses go, the closest defense to the middle of the map is in between the inverted hills. So there is once you're in, and everyone's dead. So if you see an opportunity as a backliner where your front line has potential to push in, put all of your units in like instead of going for that second APHIS, there's always another corner that can do that. Help your front line win the game.
Shout out to Mr. Artillery at the top, holding off the kings for that long just by himself. Unfortunately, probably not the best teammates around him. Top right corner, go and help out your teammates. And,
I reckon top left is actually online and sending units,
top
but
left's
yes.
helping.
Top right
needs to come across the
definitely.
same time.
T3 is great and all, but T3 off of 4/5 fusions and building fusions while T3ing is not the this is not the way. Do you know the way? Tank Tom has managed to get a bunch of ticks into the back line of his players. Those ambassadors managing to push the army back enough that a group can punch their way through, and these are wreaking havoc in the back line, pulling defenses and just getting little... Oh, sorry, these are rovers. And just getting little bits of damage done here and there. But the big thing is that they are allowing for his nice slow push. The and because of all that vision, those ambassadors are hitting nice and hard. T3 coming up from the bottom of the map. These Razorbacks are starting to push in, and they will be countering Pink's Razorback. That is not a rezzed Razorback, so we do have a T3 on this bottom left side. However, it's going to have a monumentally big task as the spam is coming in to back up those T3 units. This is going to be another big push. We've got ticks for vision and for tanking damage, and we've got pawns to do a bunch of the rest with the Razor and keep the Razorbacks alive so they can just pour on the hurt.
Really nicely done pushing through on the south. Just back to Tom's one tip for if you're up against just ambassadors, very odd unit choice, just send small units at them. They obviously can't shoot very quickly, and you can just see a couple Jags got in there and a couple Janisses and took out pretty much all of the ambassadors with T1.
I like going for one ambassador for every 2 Mauser, and for every 3 artillery units I like to build I like to build 3 non-artillery units. That gives you a really solid front line. It gives you a lot of long-range missile firepower, but it also gives you the equivalent of Sheldons or Hounds to just chunk on that damage to stop those frontal assaults. Speaking of frontal assaults...
is going in with the Razorbacks in a massive number.
Similar to that, we have the Razorbacks at the bottom of the map going in with all that T1 spam. They're doing an absolutely great job in cleaning up players, but let's look at Duffy walking through the mines. The mine's doing a good job of damaging that T3. This is where comms are supremely useful, with very little in the way of spam around, though the possibility of comms to get good D-guns here is massive. There is one trying to do it, but the others are not getting in position for it. Just remember, walls do not stop T3. T3 walks over walls.
Unfortunately, Zayla's commander just going
out
of invisible for a second then when the energy went low, and Duffy quickly taking all those Razorbacks away from the commander. Got to stop calling him Duffy. He's Cookie now. Maybe he actually wants to be called Cookie.
Counterattack coming down the hill towards the Kings, but unfortunately it is just that little bit too late. The Razorbacks are going to cut off the defenses, and the Kings can handle that all very nicely. Looking to the bottom part of the map, Tank Tom is now properly up the ramp, and he's being supported by his teammates, just running his bulls nice on through. and dealing a lot of damage. Doesn't look like he's going to take out that fusion. Can he grab the second one? Doesn't look like it, but I reckon he'll get that conversion. Has targeted it, so does get that second one. That's going to leave a pretty open lane for him to start getting up into the corner. We have got a Peasant corner nice and cleared over here as well. That pincer maneuver by Duffy and iPawn Gaming as well as Grunt Gaming, clearing up that corner really nicely, keeping that constant pressure on. The Kings have done a really good job to get up to the top and to prevent the Peasants from really doing too much. This is what I talk about when I say about aggression. The Kings had more aggression at that 10-minute mark than the Peasants, and this is what happens. You've got to put the teams on the back foot, and because there was aggression all around the map, there wasn't one side that could be left just to super eco up. Everyone had to get into the fight, and everyone had to do their bit.
There's too many Razorbacks coming out of Eater of Cookies.
Well, I mean, look at what the Eater of Cookies on a 13 Aphis. Oh, sorry, not 13 Aphis. On 11 Aphis economy. That is plenty to be getting on with.
I was definitely wrong at picking the Peasants on this one. I didn't actually look up at the eco, but on reflection, the eco was almost even shortly after the 10-minute marks, which is a bad sign for the Peasants. Usually you want to see it about the 15-minute mark.
It does depend. It does depend on a lot of things. There wasn't the best in the corners. There wasn't the best co-op ecoing. The Kings were also very strong, and we also have less players than you've been comparing this to in the past. The past couple of weeks, it's usually been at 50 plus players, which makes it almost impossible, no matter how well the Kings go, to balance that metal out. But you're definitely not wrong. When they do run reasonably equal, then that does put it slightly in favor of the Kings.
Pretty much just two strong bastions left. So I'd say top right in the best position, but still a bit of a skeleton of what they were 5 minutes ago. And similarly, the bottom right now on T3 with a bunch of snipers. That is going to be quite hard to push through unless there's a lot of spam coming, but I'm sure that is going to come very soon, especially with Tank Tom building up with his ticks now.
Certainly a wall of units to be punching through, but with the King's economy, they will be able to punch through it quite nicely. You have a pause here, not quite sure why. No pings indicating, so it does look like it has been unpaused. Resign vote has been called, but there are still plenty of players that want to fight this one out.
To the death. I mean, people have built up their economies and do want to fight right till the bitter end. That's absolutely fine. I mean, I definitely do encourage a resign vote if it's just a commander or two hiding in a corner. These guys fight it out, see what happens.
Doesn't look like there is enough energy to be firing that scavenger. There we go, the scavenger bastion is now starting to fire. Does do a good bit of damage, but it isn't that much stronger than a regular bastion. It does look like the top right of the map is now being properly invaded, as all of the spam is coming on through nicely.
I don't know if Kargi is the best option here.
Kargis do what Kargis do.
Cortex.
They're actually surprisingly good at killing spam, but yes, there's this is probably where I would be throwing a demon up just to try and keep that spam down, but is it getting cleaned up? Those couple of ticks just ticking off the build power, ticking off the conversion, and that's essentially going to mean that production grinds to a halt in this top corner, and it is only the bottom still left with those vanguards. With those vanguards starting to shell on in and having all of the pawns in front of them, they should be able to break this quite nicely. Especially once the Kings finish up at the top and bring their full might to bear.
Hey, what do you reckon the Peasants should have done differently? It was quite a stacked Kings team, in my opinion.
The Kings definitely were stacked, but one of the things that I will say is at the 10-minute mark, only 3 ramps attacked the Kings.
Yeah.
And then the Kings were able to get on the offensive at the 11-minute mark. They then broke 3 players at 11 minutes. They then got on the offensive in the bottom half of the map at about 11:30, and they broke three players at 11:30, and then they got on the offensive again at about 13 minutes and just kept that up and running and didn't stop. There wasn't enough pressure put on the Kings at that 10-minute mark. When you have the player advantage, you have to make a decision about who's going to eco, about who's going to and about who's going to be defensive, who's going to be offensive. If every single player that is up on the top of one of these little bastions next to the ramps, if every single one of those players decides to be offensive at 10 minutes, if every single player that has 3 mexes in front of a ramp chooses to be defensive at 10 minutes, if each corner helps somebody eco and distributes T2 to everyone in their corner, and then if the extra random positions around the map play adaptively, the Peasants will win every game.
Absolutely, I would have that. Would definitely have to change the bonuses if that was to happen.
Yep.
That would be the meta for this.
Because if there are 16 ramps that get attacked, we have never seen a Kings team win when more than 10 ramps are attacked at the 10-minute mark. We've never seen the Kings beat that.
We've never seen a Kings win if 2 of the Kings fall in the first 10 minutes after the no rush.
Yep, and we see it as being, and it's very equal if one of the Kings falls at the 10-minute mark.
Yeah, and that was me a number of weeks ago. I remember falling to a bunch of incisors, just 1 player's worth of incisors. They did have 60 of them. But, oh, that's an interesting epic commander final boss. At the bottom right of the screen. Definitely built by the players in game.
This is something that you can build in game if you're ever playing in a multiplayer match. What you have to do is be the last player on a team with units, and then you have to build the teleporter beacon with a T3 construction bot. If you do that and manage to hold on for a whole minute, your comm will turn into the final boss.
Yeah, just a disclaimer, Prey is Australian, so don't listen to him. He's talking crap.
What are you talking about? That's legit.
Actually thinking that he's telling the truth.
That's legit.
We can actually read the statistics for once on this one.
Very nice.
Damage dealt huge out of the Kings. B-bomb right up there, and also the first King to really push through any lands on the north with all those pawns doing a lot of damage early on, which is reflected on the graphs for damage dealt. All the Kings, you can see how predominant they were. There were no real weak links for the damage dealt. Everyone pushing their lane. Nicely done, Kings.
What I always look at personally when it comes to deciding who I think is going to win at 10 minutes mark, it is this damage dealt at 10 minutes. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 Kings that have damage dealt at the 10-minute mark, and that's because they were the Kings that tried to go offensive. For the Peasants, you have 1, 2, potentially 3 that potentially 4 that went at that 10-minute mark, and that means that you did not have enough Peasant damage. You can actually see those damages quite low across the board for the Peasants. Only a handful of them are really skyrocketing through. This is to be a bit expected with the metal produced. We do have all of the Kings doing really well. What is a problem in this one is that we don't see anywhere between 1 and 4 Peasants matching this line, and that you can do if you co-op eco in the corners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty then, let's get the next one set up. You don't necessarily need a 5090 to get all of this running. I'm personally running off of a 4080, but I also have run this in the past off of a 1080 Ti. You certainly do run into a little bit of trouble towards the end of some of the really big games, But even with a 1080 Ti, it wasn't too bad. You can be somewhat CPU bound, but I haven't had any issues running on a 10th series and an 11th series CPU for this game. I also have played it on a laptop in the past while traveling. Is a decent laptop, does have some decent hardware, but you got to remember it is a laptop, so not always going to be perfect. There we go. Play on a 37. Johnny plays on a 3070 mobile, and as long as you balance your settings, you won't have too much of a problem, even in these big games. 3v3 finals, not entirely sure. With those ones, potentially a mod will answer that in the chat, but as of this exact moment, my knowledge of that is very limited. All I do know is that there is a 50k event coming up, and we hope to see you guys there.
We get 3 more kings down the bottom, so anyone above 3 Chev or above, feel free to jump on down there, and you'll get a 45% bonus on your economy added to your name.
And while we're here, can we get someone from the team to post the Discord in the in-game chat, just so that anyone who wants to join it can. There is a King's chat, there is a Peasant's chat, and coordination is your best friend regardless of which team you're on.
There was some good coordination in that last game there. A couple of Kings in the voice channel working closely together.
Oh man, that push with the massive T1 units with the T2 mixed in down the bottom, that was huge. That was huge. We say this a lot, but you don't necessarily have to. Oh my god. You see this a lot, but you don't necessarily have to attack your own ramp. You're best off finding a weak spot and pushing it regardless of where it is. If you are going up against 2 heavily defended ramps, who cares? They've spent their money on defense. Go attack somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a good chance that if there's heavily defended ones, 1 or 2 ramps around, it'll be free.
Yep. You can, as peasants, you have to make a choice about what you're going to do. You can either defend, you can build units, or you can build eco. You can't do all of the things unless you have people helping you out, in which case you may well be able to. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, co-op eco, my friends.
Okay, just checking if anyone wants to take over from Cookie Destroyer in the Kings. He has had a couple goes up there. A very overpowered player.
Was he in the last one?
He was
yes, Cookie Destroyer was a king in the last one. Got himself up to a 11 APHIS economy, and then busted everything down with a whole bunch of Razorbacks. If you're listening, Cookie Destroyer, I'd love to see some spam in front of those units. I've noticed in multiple of your games, you lose a lot of T3 units to comms that could be easily prevented by shoving spam in front. Also, actually, I don't really want to give that advice because I have to play against you sometimes, and I really don't want to.
When you play
I would like you to be vulnerable to comms, please, and thank you.
All right, let's get a lock on Team 2, I reckon. And then remove those bonuses from the rest that are not in there. That's been done. Nicely done, Tom. Too quick for me. Okay, I'm just going to post the rules into the in-game chat, but for those listening in, no rush, time has 10 minutes, is turned off, no structures that can hit any enemy eco. That means do not build an agitator that can reach those mexes on the front line. They will be kindly removed by the mods and you will just lose the medal. And then there's a no reclaim hack. If you know what it is, don't do it. It's just about abusing metal reclaim with those bonus.
Just waiting for everyone to ready up here, and then we should be good to go.
We'll give them just a moment, and after that, we'll give them the boot. If they are not ready up, looks like we've got around about 66 players to go up against our 8. this is going to be a pretty rough one for the Kings. When we get over that 50-player limit, we consider throwing in a 9th King or a plus 55 bonus. We'll see how they go, but after such a dominant play and such a good example out of the Kings, it'll be it would be remiss of the players that are there not to follow with such a strong example.
There was a question in the Kings channel last game whether the Peasants ever win this, because we had a relatively easy run, and that was largely because we didn't get pushed. So none of us fell, at which point, if you've still got all the Kings at 15 minutes, there's a good chance that you can win it from there.
Jags did really well for you guys. Like, Jags were just covering all the spaces. And yeah, they might be a bit of a slower offensive unit getting up those hills and through the gaps. They're not the best, but
yes,
just coming across and defending, they just cleaned everything up that was chasing you guys.
Good day, live fruit. Glad to see you're in the. Oh, sorry. I can't read to save my life. Good day, live life full. Thanks for joining us.
Not even close.
Yes, to answer the question that was posed before, whether the Peasants ever win, I believe last week the Kings didn't win at all. So, the Peasants most certainly do have their day in the limelight. All right, let's start booting those players that are not ready, and let's get this game underway.
Last week we did break a record. I think the biggest King of the Hill in RTS history, from what I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But 115 players graced us with the King of the Hill experience, and the replay of that game, we actually went and live postcast that one afterwards. It's coming live on our YouTube at AllReasonNoLogic in about an hour. If you want to check that out after the stream or during your week, during your lunch break, that's when I like to watch bar videos. Thanks to all those content creators out there that keep me occupied while I'm eating a sandwich.
I gotta say, when I was working in Steel, I most certainly appreciated my little lunchtime breaks and the ability to jump on YouTube. That was most certainly a good opportunity to rest and kick my feet up.
Have we said hello to Jeff from the chat so far this evening?
Whereabouts is Jeff in the chat?
He's on ours.
He's on ours. I don't think we have, but good day, Jeff. I unfortunately can only see the two officials at the moment because those are the ones that are getting my perspective. You're currently getting, I believe it's Twig and Tank Tom's perspective on the other two, on our actual channels.
He was noting, just when we were talking about the computers before, a 40 can basically run it. Those massive battles with a 50 people will slow it down a little. That was relating to the specs you were talking about, the lower end ones.
Good day.
Even on some of the higher end PCs, you start to notice it a bit, but it's still playable.
You just got to do what I do and water cool your PC. You'll never see any problems.
That's just with the watering can, right? Like you just have it next to you and pour it over as required.
Oh, look, I just have a bucket that I dunk it into. Water cool away. No, I'm actually using the liquid graphene stuff, if you've seen that on YouTube before. I don't think it does anything for cooling, for extra cooling, but it looks really, really awesome.
It looks pretty.
It does look pretty. Good day. Johnny drops tables. Johnny is asking if Twig can name a couple of the YouTubers that produce bar content. He knows about Winter Gaming. If you know about Winter Gaming, you should know about AllReasonNoLogic. Those guys make pretty good content. Definitely check them out. But then who else is there, Twig?
I do like, or Brightworks was one of the original ones, just for, like I said, those lunchtime breaks. His game's real chilled to watch. Gives just a kind approach to assessing people's gameplay, and also will give tips along the way, so check him out. I don't mind David Skinner, plays as Not Real. He's more from his perspective, his games. I do learn a lot from his gameplay myself. Requiem, I've checked out. There are a lot. Honestly, just go on there and search for Beyond All Reason in YouTube and you'll find a lot more. I just simply don't get enough time to watch enough of the casters because I have a little 4-month-old. Jump in the Discord as well. If you have a look on the right hand side, it tells you who the caster is, and also there is an announcement of when people stream on the Discord.
I think you definitely mentioned him, but David Skinner is a great one to watch if you enjoy live streams. I also am fairly sure that he watches our content because of a stream title that he's used before in the past. So always hoping to support him if that's if well, I'd support him either way, but if he does watch us, even more. Well, that does look like there are none of us three in it, which means that it's going to be Tank Tom, Twig, and myself casting this one. And let's get that under the way. A couple of comms have started in... A couple of the peasant comms have started in the middle of the map. They have been quickly removed, and I do believe those metal corpses have been left behind for the kings. So the kings do get a nice little bit of a extra start on this one. That is what happens if you don't read the rules. You give an advantage to
I
the
would have
other
thought
team.
the pretty lava would be a nice enough way to explain stay away from this. There is a visible burning hot moat separating the two teams. That does drop away at 10 minutes.
I don't know. To me it doesn't look like someone's put a lot of effort into making that happen so that it is a very clear barrier.
Are you trying to say that you've never burnt yourself on something like a campfire before?
Just a quick shout out to Chrono. Anytime the lava comes up, he's the guy. He made the map work this way and worked with the devs to get the title changes going in the game, so can't thank him enough. The amount of work that must have taken is insane, and we're the ones that benefit from it the most, so always going to be forever grateful to Chrono.
Very much appreciated.
If you guys want to see how to use that, we have dropped a little quick short on how these settings can be modified to have lava in your games. It works on any map.
Does look like we just had our first victim to the lava. A builder did try to walk through it, and now there is a plus 66 in the lava belt. Do your best to stay outside the lava, my friends. So, for those of us that are new and joining us, please, just to let you know what is going on, this is King of the Hill, and we are all reason, no logic. What you're seeing is 9 of 9 very strong players in the middle of the map with a plus 45% bonus. These guys are the kings. There is 10 minutes until the lava drops around the map, which means a 10-minute no rush timer, which the kings have to build up and get ready to destroy the peasant uprising. The peasants, on the other hand, also have 10 minutes to build up, but they don't have that plus 45%, which means they need to work together if they're going to overwhelm the kings. There's a couple of rules here. The first one is that 10-minute no rush timer. The second one is no air. And the third one is no using structures offensively. That means no building things like gauntlets on the high ground that can area deny the kings, because this map is so spread out and the economy is so favored towards the peasants. You just have to make sure that you're not preventing the kings from actually playing the game. The other really big one is the Junos. If you are a king, feel free to Juno anywhere inside of the hill. If you're a peasant, feel free to Juno anywhere outside of the ramps. But do not Juno each other's bases. That's a hard rule. Same goes for things like your EMPs and your catalysts. So Twig and Tank Tom.
The going on in one corner. Sorry to jump in there. We do have our favourite commie Cookie Destroyer at the top left doing as usual. So it's going to be really interesting. Probably the strongest eco coming from up there. But all three other corners doing their own thing. Definitely recommend if you start in a corner, you pair up with someone next to you and go into the 1T2 lab.
Going straight into an Aphis in that top left-hand corner. That is ballsy. But you will notice we are at 4 minutes, and there is that T2 lab up, and all 3 mexes are already T2, which means that we're going to be throwing a lot of energy and a lot of metal into this Aphis. The more you can help out, the faster it's going to go, the stronger that corner is going to be. The T2 share is where it is at. If you look inside the bases, we only just have T2 starting to come up for the kings now. We do have a lab that is we've just had our first T2 labs come online. For the Kings, a full minute and a half later than the first one for the Peasants. That is the power of co-op ecoing.
That's going
Do
to
me a
be
favor, Prey. You got
disgusting.
a massive screen. Can you go into the statistics? Are you able to actually see if you filtered by metal produced? Is that eater of cookies at a higher metal produced at 10k over
Oh,
the
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
every single one of the
He
kings?
Yes,
is
10k metal
That's
produced versus
filthy.
4.3 for the next highest, who is also a Peasant.
and the highest king is at 10.
No, the highest.
Does
No,
look
no.
like he was
The
given
highest
one
king
extra
is. Oh,
commander
sorry,
as
you're right. The
well.
highest king is at 10. Yes, but
Hmm.
Cookie is beating them by 1,000 metal.
Okay, Tom, last game we were picking at your build order at the start. The only thing I really picked on, and Prey disagree with me, was going straight into a solar. With that 45% bonus, I always like to go into wind because you won't bottom out going into the wind, unless of course it's at, say, 2.
It's
and then
largely
going into the
habit
storage.
from often doing a 3-max start for things, and
Yeah.
it means that you've got some insulation for when it dies. This one, I don't. Yeah, because it can go down to 2 if you don't have any solars. Particularly if it hits early, it hits real hard. That's why I tend to like having at least a solar in the mix early on. Once you've got the 5 to 10 wins and a energy storage up, it's nowhere near as bad. But the other
Yeah.
thing is that it builds faster than the wind, I'm fairly certain.
You did
Like an
bottom
energy
out
per
on metal a
second.
couple times, and you did have the storages there. There were probably opportunities to reclaim for metal, so especially the metal storage, reclaim that and just rebuild it when you need the storage rather than keeping it. That's probably the only other bit of advice I had on that one. So people, this no rush phase is kind of like a lab experiment right before the chemicals are mixed. Everyone's setting up carefully, measuring their resources, checking that energy flow is right, making sure the conditions are just right. Because once that clock hits 10 minutes, it's reaction time as the lava drops, and things are gonna either explode or implode.
Cookie's
In one
Aphis
way
just
or
came
the other.
online.
Ah, that is
6 minutes
disgusting.
50.
That is disgusting. Oh, imagine if you just heard T3 detected as a king and you don't even have T3 yourself at that 10-minute mark. Could happen, but I dare say it'd probably be the better option to go into a couple more Aphis. And then, yeah, does he have enough conversion? It's coming down right now. That is a nice build. Really good at, probably one of Cookie's best skills is just getting everyone around him to get on board with the co-op eco, getting everyone at the top there to just feed metal. And that's what you need to make that happen. And it pays off dividends massively.
One of the biggest struggles the Kings are going to run into is that it is going to be Cookie up against the Red King. The Red King is not going to have a fusion by 10 minutes, which means that the Red King will have almost no ability to scale. So it's going to be, I wouldn't say an open lane because there are defenses being built, but this is going to be a really rough position.
It's definitely going to be a weak point.
And this is one of the
orange commander in the middle, our Super King as you call it, because they've got the extra mix to themselves, has found out what we have learnt many times in. I'll admit that we've practiced these builds a few times. Build order is one of the biggest problems you have after you get that fusion up and you start converting the metal. Just getting enough build turrets up to build that first Aphis and build the T3 lab. You don't want to overflow too much, which seems to happen quite often for us.
16 build turrets is my go-to for getting the fusion up, and I would rather have a fusion and only 2 metal extractors than all of the metal extractors before the fusion. You'll note that a fusion with 2 converters, which is essentially what it can power, is going to be making you essentially 30 metal a second, and each one of these advanced metal extractors is only going to be producing you about 11 each, which means that you need to have 3 of them up and running in order to be beating that fusion. But the fusion also gives you the energy, so it's where the scaling really comes online. By the time, once you get that...
Just having a quick look around the Kings. One of the highest OS players going straight into an APHIS with only 40 seconds left on the game, I am worried with all those ticks and all those blitz. Keep your eye on that prey on your screen. That's going
Yeah.
to be an interesting lane. Very interesting lane.
OS does not
30 seconds
always
left.
guarantee a victory, especially if you're in an unfamiliar game mode like we have here. With 20 seconds to go, I'm going to do my usual. I'm going to zoom right out, and I'm going to bandbox the map. Any white unit you can see is a offensive unit, and it's looking much more promising out of the peasants this time. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes that are ready to attack at that 10-minute mark. The lava is going down, so let's go, go, go.
Timers are off, the chemicals are mixed, and we've got reactions happening.
Big
Ooh, some
push
good
from
pushes
4
coming
lanes
in.
at the bottom. And
And
these,
that is enough to make it well and truly in.
yes.
Oh, those ticks unfortunately chain reacting, keeping them too close together against some of those explosions.
But
there is nothing
they're
that's
in.
going to stop.
There's enough that's
Only
in.
takes a couple.
And
His experienced
good.
commander is at least
I love to see them
reclaiming
running past.
Oh no, look at all the blitzes. Look at all the units coming in. Oh
That
dear.
Bottom lane is well and truly in. The
greedy,
top right is
greedy.
pushing in hard as well.
You know, Cookie Destroyer might not even get to use that amazing eco that he's created. Well, probably one of the fastest builds that we've ever seen out of Peasants too.
Very nicely done. This is why you have to balance yourself out. You need enough units to be able to deflect this from... Every king needs enough units to be able to deflect 2 players worth of attacking units. And unfortunately, we've had the kings break in 2 positions, 2 kings essentially taken out, and units flowing around the middle to take everyone out. This is one of the big reasons we say that every king needs to be able to get to at least a fusion.
Who's going to make it? Oh,
Depends on what they attack. You've got to attack that build power is what I would be doing, but that mega D-gun saving the build power.
Mm.
Do you know what's really interesting about this? It's not over for the kings yet. If they can rally and defend, they have essentially 50% more reclaim in this middle than they say.
At the start of this, you said if 2 kings fall, actually it was me that said that.
Yeah.
If 2 kings fall, we've never seen the kings win this. So 2 kings have completely fallen, that top right and the bottom lane.
There was that one game, wasn't there, where Classic saved us?
That was yeah, but that was falling
not
at the
start.
25-minute mark.
Ah, true.
Yeah, that was a late game fall and then somehow hold because the economies were split such that there wasn't a full chain reaction through the base. And really good reaction by one way to get back into these. You can see the wreckage is build an army of res bots and they will resurrect things very quickly if there's 100 or 2 of them.
As I said, if you can regain control of the middle and get your res going, get your reclaim going, there is still potential to go in, because if you look at this, the attacks are petering out from the King's team. There is still stuff coming in, but like this is a 6 Sheldon army. This is a 8 Rover army. This is a retreating handful of mid-tier unit army.
There are T3 on the way though.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
There are orders happening. But where are they going to attack? If I was the blue player, Cookie, I'd be attacking probably on one of the already defeated lanes rather than going down his lane. There is a nice clean-up crew of pawns just on the right-hand side. 2 players worth taking out all the defenses, knowing that there's a lot of defense right in the middle of the map at the moment, rather than going and trying to get to that eco, opening up more lanes for more peasants to be able to attack.
Good to see this pressure continuing from the top right side. After they opened up that hole, they've continuously kept sending units in to keep that pressure on.
Keep up my really newbie reference early on. That definitely hasn't gone as planned for 2 of these kings, and a few of the others. A few test tubes have shattered and the labs are in flames. I actually don't know if the kings have a chance against this.
Funnily enough, you say that the King's chat has been saying that they didn't expect that.
Based off the last game, you can see the huge difference where nobody pushed from the peasant side at the start last round
versus lots of pushing.
Yeah, whereas half the peasants had armies that went rolling in, and it meant that you could see the kings trying to react, but they didn't have enough units to get to both of the solid pushes at the same time to hold them off. And then at
Yeah.
that point, they had to basically clean up from the insides rather than being able to push on out.
There's only
Does
5
look
economies
like
left.
with
the
this
kings.
T3 starting to pour in at the top of the map, that it's going to be mostly all she wrote for those peasants. There could be some hero D-guns coming out here. The Marauders are walking right into that comm, but they have stayed outside of D-gun range, so the last couple holdouts look
An
like they're going to
offensive
be
comm?
falling pretty soon.
That is right next to those marauders to the right. That is
Ooh.
not a king.
Oof.
Some good D guns coming out of the red player there. However, that's not going to be enough.
We do see some offensive plays coming out of the Kings at the moment. They are trying their best to recover, but unfortunately this is a pouring water by the cup onto a house fire sort of situation. You have to pick your moments to get on that offensive, and unfortunately, while your base is being destroyed, that is not the moment to be going for it.
Perfect example on the right hand side there. You do not need big units to win games. Pawns taking out yet another economy for the kings, and then we're just down to the middle economy and the brown economy or maroon.
That's going
Never
to be
get
a
the
nice
colours right.
chain reaction when it goes.
And there it does, in fact, go. All that conversion is gone, which means that the metal production for the Kings has now dropped below 500. And that is not a recoverable position, in my opinion. Even with that super bastion in the middle.
The thing is, it can only attack one unit at a time.
One unit at a time.
And when you've got units flying in from all quarters, there's only so much that can be done.
And this is exactly what I was talking about in the in-between moments of the game before, about how if you have each of the players that are in those raised positions, so when I'm talking about those, I'm talking about these positions, if all of those players get on the offensive, then if all of the players directly in front of the ramps get on the defensive, and then everybody else gets onto a balance between ecoing and supporting your offenses and your defenses, then you'll end up as an unstoppable force as the peasants. That is how King of the Hill works in both in reality and in the game. If the peasants work together, there is no beating them, because they do have the numbers.
Just like that, Center has built 10 of your favorite unit.
Oh yeah. I thought the Kings were through of this game, but no, we have the we do have the War Master Titans, the Soul Invictus heading on through and defending the bases here. These units are actually strong enough at this point in the game that, provided they're not degunned, they could actually make their way around and kill many, many of the peasants. This is what I would call a diamond rank intervention, if any of you guys read lit RPGs.
There are only 2 commanders left, so that would be what I would be targeting.
Nice work, Cookie Destroyer, grabbing 2 of those Soul Invictus. We've just been told by Chrono that if you rush a behemoth in under 10 minutes, it will have super speed. If anyone wants to test that, you're more than welcome.
That would be terrifying.
Could you imagine a behe that moves as fast as a tick?
I'd love to see it.
Oh, me too.
I don't know. I imagine you guys are kind of like me, where you start to judge things based on how fast the dots move to work out what you're going to be up against before it comes into range.
100%.
Seeing that, being like, oh, it's okay.
Oh, it's a tick.
It is not okay.
I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Alright, just
like they're going to take out that last eco, and there's 2 comms who've kind of given up.
It was actually the Scav Bastion that got the kill on that one. Alrighty then, last 2 comms for the Kings, and this one's going to be quite a fast one. Looks like now that the peasants have unlocked the secret to winning the game, we're going to have to bump up that bonus for the middle so that they can get both their economy and their defenses up and running, and so that they don't completely lose out in that first 10 minutes. Really good job by the peasants, by the way. This is exactly what you need to do to turn this into a crushing victory. We've got Cookie Destroyer begging in chat, can I please be king again? Cookie Destroyer, can I have one of your cookies? If the answer is yes, then you can be a king in the next one. I do enjoy cookies. Yes! I'm getting a cookie, so we're good. Looks like Cookie Destroyer will get a go in the middle.
It'll probably be a destroyed cookie though, so I don't know how edible that will be.
I can live with that. I'll eat the cookie dust. It's a cookie, man. You can't say no to a cookie. Last Sol Invictus defending the last comm. Not even enough energy to keep that thing cloaked. Sol Invictus nearly killing it with its death. Great D-gun out of Hero Man today. You were a hero. And where is that last comm off to? Last comm is over here. Is that an infinite resource? It is an infinite resource. A couple of Daedaluses just holding the line over here. You got to get on that offensive, Elvis. If you want to win the game, you've got to push in and try to win. Can't be playing a defensive game at the moment right now. There are 48 peasant comms to kill, and you've got the army to kill it with.
Just
Probably
watching that massive dots coming across the screen for him, looking at his player view.
Oh yeah, actually I want to see that. Player view. Look at that mini map. Look at that mini map over there. Look at all those dots. Good
Can't see far,
times.
but it's well coloured in.
Come on, you can do it. You've got to go up those ramps if you want to win. 2 comms left. I think one of them's an evolving... I think both are evolving comms, actually. Head on up those ramps. Take the battle to the peasants. It's the only way. It's the only way. What the? Epic comm...
That is cool. That looks exactly
I like
the
that.
figurine that I got.
I
from
like that a
Sprinkles.
lot. It doesn't seem to do very much, though.
Does it shoot?
It doesn't look like it does. It might be because it's out of energy.
If you're listening, Evis, I want to see a D gun out of that thing.
Yes.
Does it go that whole range?
Yes, drop a D-gun. Do it. Do
You
it.
see just how much damage this spam's doing, running past all these with the surround bonuses.
I mean, look, the surround bonus is crazy, but ticks also have ludicrously good DPS for their cost. Like, absolutely ludicrously good DPS for their cost.
Oh, it does D gun that whole
Ooh.
distance.
It's so pretty.
That is awesome. Nice and
I love
big.
the purple smoke that came out of it.
Yes, but... Got him.
That is nice.
It's such a long range. If you're on the edge, you can actually dodge it if you see it coming. Oh my god, it kills comms. The super D gun kills comms.
It did.
That's amazing. That's amazing right there. All right. That was a big explosion.
That's such a
That
big
explosion was so big it destroyed the conversion in the blue base over here. Alright, last little bit here. There we go. Last unit in the game is this level 10 comm. Question is, can they snipe it with rapidity? Yes, they can. Tick's doing a lot of damage right here, down to 50%. All of the units just streaming in. 25%. And there it goes. GG, good job out of the kings, but even better job out of the peasants. This is what we want to see out of those peasants. Stats are not going to be overly relevant this time round. It does look like the game's having a small bit of trouble ending, just due to those extra units that have been sent in and those extra resources, we do need to just do a... we need one more king to vote for a resign, and then we should be good. There we go. Vote passed. Kings resigned. That should be the end of the match. There we go. That is the end screen. Let's have a quick look at those graphs. We're not going to be able to get a lot of information out of them. Yeah, oh, actually, we can. So this is the really important thing. At 10 minutes, what color are you seeing most of? Red? A red team or blue team? The answer is, in fact, red team. That means that the red team got on the offensive and did a very good job at it. For metal produced and energy produced, we see nothing because of the... We see basically nothing because of the infinite energy resource. However, on the energy produced, you can see Cookie Destroyer as the #1 eco in the game. That is crazy considering he didn't have a bonus. Alright, let's jump on out of this one and get going into the next one. Twig and Tank Tom, I'm going to leave this to you for a moment, and you're going to decide how we're going to balance this one out so the Kings have a fair shot now that the Peasants have united and know what to do.
Alright, we'll just ask first up for 8 new kings to jump down the bottom. We're actually going to make it 9, seeing as we've got over 50. I'll just put that into the chat.
And I have made a deal with Cookie Destroyer, so no matter what, he's going to be a king this time around. I want that damn cookie.
Alright, Tom, if you can put that bonus on Cookie Destroyer and remove it from the rest, and Cookie Destroyer, if you could please send Pradith a cookie. Okay,
I'm guessing we're doing bigger bonuses this time round too. Do we want to do it at 60,
no,
55s?
That's too much. Just sort out the teams first, and then we'll decide the bonus
my
based
address
on who's in
for
there.
sending the cookie is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C.
Is that the White House by chance?
No, it's my house.
Okay. Few too many kings. No, that's... Yeah, one too many kings down there, Tom. I'm going to leave that one with you to sort out the bonuses and make sure that we've got a range of new kings in there so everyone can have a go. If you can also just put that in the chat to have people jump in there if they want to have a turn at being king. I should really have a go at being king tonight.
Do it. Get in there, son.
Might wait for... Okay, fine. I've already got my bonus from last time as well. That's handy. So if you want to just move 1 or 2 out that were in there last game, Tom. People tuning in, welcome to you. And this is King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic, where we throw a bunch of kings up the top of a hill, give them a nice bonus. We're rounding this one up this game because the Peasants have realized if you build units, you actually win. There's a 10-minute no rush, and then we also ask people not to build any structures that can reach the mexes of the opposing team's economy. All right, we've got 9. Let's lock that King's team. But Tom, just a minimum of 3 chefs for Kings, please.
Yep. Oops, wrong. Sorry.
We have had Cookie ask if we can have scav units in the game. What do you guys reckon? I don't mind personally. I don't actually know how to add the scav units. Nightmare, if you're listening in, I'm happy for you to put them in there. It looks like he has.
Wait, what? Scav units?
Scav units. I don't know what it means. I'm going to ask in the chat, what is scav units? Maybe
I think that's so that he can... I think that loads the scav unit pack so that he can put the scav units in like he was doing before. I don't think that makes them playable. Because it's sort of like if you don't have the Legion stuff loaded, I don't think you can load in Legion units.
Yeah. We are doing 9 kings, are we, Tom? because we've got over 60.
Yeah, we just need one more to jump down there. I accidentally spec someone rather than moving them.
Get in there, Tom. Join Twig.
So
Team up
anyone-
together and do that T1 T2 combo together.
I'm up for that.
Nice.
There
Let's
we
give you
go.
a bonus too. There we go. Let's lock out those teams. And let's get this
We've got one too
underway.
many now.
There'll be whoever don't have the bonus.
I
Really?
reckon someone hadn't had their bonus taken from them, or they were in spec and jumped back in. Who was the last person in?
I don't know.
It's the 2 chef.
Yes, that one. And bonus. Right. Team. Not do it Twig inspect on this time, right?
Okay, I shall ready up, and then
Let's
we'll
lock those
wait
teams
for
and let's
those-
get going. Don't jump out of chat just straight away. I'll kick you guys out once I'm ready to take over.
Not a problem. Over to the Twitch. What do we got? People ask about snap cookies. What are snap cookies? Snap cookies, when they go stale, they become very soft, but they change something about the recipe. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Someone tell me what a snap cookie
I'm
is.
assuming that there's something from somewhere else in the world and not here.
Who here eats Vegemite that's not from Australia? Very Australian spread that we put on our bread. I personally hate it. Some people absolutely
It
love
was
it though.
great. You just have Vegemite and cheese, and it works great for breakfast.
Tom, your OS is going up slowly. You're up to 17 OS, I'm seeing in game. For
It's getting
people that don't know, Tom is now on the road to 25 OS, one of the AllReasonNoLogic series that appears every Wednesday on our YouTube. Check out the series. He's a couple episodes in, or one episode in, another one dropping this Wednesday. I know he's played a few more games than those episodes show. And people, if you got any questions, ask them in the Twitch chat. That's the one that I check the most because that's where most people are. Have we got enough? I think we've got 81 people. That's more spots than we have.
We've got
Available?
an ID conflict, but I can't see who it is.
Okay, I will help you out with that one briefly.
It's 14.
I'll do a quick skim. So the ID conflict, people, when we get so many people in the game, sometimes people get assigned the same ID and it won't let us start the game. So apologies for that. We will get this one underway as soon as we've figured out where those conflicts are. Often happens when people have an ID and then jump in spec and then jump back again. Not seeing any others. Okay, people, if you could ready up and we'll get this one underway. All the bonuses correct. Just making sure there's no peasants with bonuses.
There should be, and I think we are good to go.
Just up the top, Punji, if you can ready up, thank you.
Autolab in chat has just broken the news about our next series after Tom's road to 25 OS. Twig's going to be doing a road to 45 OS.
It's just one episode a year will be released at the rate that I play 8 vs 8 ranked games with a child. I'm actually scared to lose my OS, to be completely honest. I do play unranked quite often. I do think I win a couple more than I lose, but not enough to get anything higher than maybe 35 OS. I'm not that good. I'm not up there with the pros. I would
That's
love
alright,
to take it on though, get my OS a little bit higher, but I like it at 30.
we'll see if we can build a team of 8 players and see how long it takes the 8 of us together to get to 45 OS.
I put you in the top 1% of OS in players. By the way, I've got an admission that I got wrong. I was on the ranking websites praying. You used to refer to OS as MR, but if you do go to the websites, those bar where you can log into your own account and you go to your matchmaking and everything, it does call the number that we see in the game match rating skill. So you might actually have been right this whole time. And OS is actually the number that you're given on the ladders. So yeah, they're not the same number. So I do apologize. MR is perfectly fine to refer to as those numbers next to all the players on our screens.
Now, one of the interesting things is that I'm going to claim that it's a victory. But the actual fact of the matter is the reason I call it MR is because I play Warframe, and that's what your ranking is in that. And so I've just set it on habit for so long. But I'm going to claim this as a moral victory. Very happy about that.
I am lagging like crazy.
Yeah, I crashed out on the way in, so I'm just reloading at the moment.
No worries, we'll be happy to let you back in. Looks like there are 84 peasants this time round, so that plus 50 bonus is going to be well needed for the Kings. Make sure that while you boys are in there, you give them a good bit of coaching, because they're going to need it. Let me be really clear about this, I've said it every time, if you can't get to a fusion reactor and a T2 lab with units by the 10-minute mark, you're going to be hurting as a king. It's just a fact.
Ideally, if you're going fusion, you have to be fusion and T2 by about 8.5 minutes to get all the units up and ready to go.
Yep.
Because if you have it at 10 minutes, you're screwed.
If you invest too much in things and don't get your fusion up, you're going to have a really bad time. Optimally, you'll have 2 fusions or a fusion and an aphis, but you have to be very confident to go fusion and aphis, and you have to be ahead of the bell curve to go double fusion, because you need the resources to scale, get that early attack on and defense on, make sure that you're not going to be the king that falls, and then after that, make sure that you scale that eco. If your first push doesn't work out by the sort of 12 to 13 minute mark, the peasants will actually have enough to defend a very light T2 attack, which means that you've got to be getting yourself out of that light T2 mindset and getting yourself into more of that eco. And on that note, I'm going to start kicking you guys out of here, but the last thing I want you to do is just chuck the AllReasonNoLogic Discord stuff into the chats, so that anyone who wants to join into it can. There is a King's chat and there is a Peasant's chat. Coordinating in those is vital to victory. Does look like the Kings might be getting a medal dono this time as well, which will be nice. Alright, I'm going to drag you guys out. Good luck, and I'll be hoping for a King's victory. Just kidding, everybody, kill my friends.
Because I took a while to load in and couldn't make it.
Oh well, looks like.
And that's enough of those two. Alright, peasants, I'm going to be relying on you to absolutely wallop the AllReasonNoLogic Kings in the middle. These guys have got plenty of experience in this, so go nice and hard on them. To kick this one off, this is going to be the 4th game of the night, the 3rd one on Raptor Crater. We have had a Peasant win and we have had a King's win so far, which means that it is anyone to play for. There is quite a strong lineup of Kings in there, including Twig and Tank Tom and Cookie Destroyer, who's been on the winning team every game this night. So the smart money is on the Kings today, provided that there are no weak links. What are the rules going on here? Well, the Kings have a plus 50% bonus, and there are 9 of them. They have 10 minutes to build up their economy, to build up their armies, and then the lava comes draining away, and the peasants can get their attack on, the kings can get their attack on. The winners of this are the only team left standing at the end. How do you win? That's a good question. There is no air, and we do not want you to use structures offensively. They are too strong for area denial when there is so little area in the map. Defensively, no worries. But offensively, please do not. So this means things like Junos. If you are a king, Juno inside of the ramps. If you are a peasant, Juno outside of the ramps. Do not use those sorts of buildings offensively. Alrighty then, so what does it take to win this? As a king, if you are able to get yourself a fusion by 10 minutes, and then the ability to hold your lanes as well as some offense, then you're in a really good spot. If you're a peasant, then you need to try to stick to your roles. You can deviate from them wildly, but we've seen the most success from players adopting a decent offensive strategy at the 10-minute mark. And what does that mean? That means these corners, there's plenty of players in the corners. Work together, get yourself T2 eco as a unit instead of individually, and you'll be having a very good time. That means only investing one lot of 3,000 metal into a lab instead of many, and distributing those T2 constructors. If you're directly in front of a lane, get your defenses on. You're going to have a struggle time as the kings try and push up. If you're on these wedges, get your offense on. Build those T1 units and crash on into the kings at 10 minutes. Try and break them nice and early. Looking around the map, it does look like we have a couple of AllReasonNoLogic players. B-Bomb and Fishhouse Mike, both these participated in the tournaments that we run every now and then. They are co-oping to get that T2 together. They're going to have it up by the 3-minute 30 mark. That's a really strong T2. We'll see whether they distribute it or whether they work together to become an eco king. Oh well, an eco peasant. Similarly on this side, two different peasants working together to grab themselves that T2. We'll see whether there are more labs coming up. There is one over there at the minimum. On the top side, 3 kings potentially working together. We'll see if they manage to do it or if they go into things. We do see 3 T1 labs, which is not a good sign. Oh, sorry. Got to swap the overlays around. Let's just fix that one. Sorry about that. In the top left, it does look like we have a decent amount of players working together with comms detonating to feed those labs. We are going to have 2 T2 labs popping up, but at least they're not popping up on their own. Looking at the middle of the map, the players to be looking out at are Cookie Destroyer. Cookie Destroyer getting that T2 lab up, going to be ready well and truly in time to be mass manufacturing all of the T2 eco starting at the 5-minute mark. Twig going with a standard build, not worrying too much about getting that lab down, just balancing his eco. You don't actually need the lab to drop down till you hit about 2,000 metal. Then it should finish up around about the time you have completed it. Looking to the other side, we do have Tank Tom going into that T2 lab a little bit earlier. Has not eaten his T1 lab, which means going to be a little bit further behind on the eco, and is going to take a little bit longer to grab that T2 lab. All the mexes in the middle look to have been taken, and we do have some defenses starting to go down. Twin guards are very, very strong for defense, beamers even stronger, but you do have to make sure that you get the timing right on building them. If you build them too soon, you're going to stunt your fusion production, and that may be what we're seeing over here, but we'll see how far Devel manages to go on this one, getting their construction power up and hopefully going into that T2 lab and into those T2 mexes with T2 energy production. Duffy handing out a couple of T2 builders, going to be helping the players that are not overly pushing into that T2 eco. Elvis going strong into those T1 solars, but definitely needs to be pushing harder on that eco as they can. Looking around at the corners, we're seeing, looks like there has been a decent amount of of T2 distributed on the bottom left corner. The bottom right corner has not overly distributed, which means they're going to be lagging a little bit behind as a group. The top side of the map going into their T2 now. 3 T2s going down in one small area. Big waste of metal right there, going to slow down their eco, unfortunately. But the left side doing quite... they're definitely not ecoing quite as fast as as Cookie Destroyer was in the previous game, managing to be getting that APHIS up right around now. But that is multiple players doing the eco roll, so not fully there at the moment. 3 minutes to go until the lava drops down, and we do have a good amount of defenses coming up. This is a lot of defense. I wouldn't even be trying to fight this. That's just you're not gonna push through that anytime soon. Instead, I would go and attack this ramp. That's gonna be mostly mines. A little bit of T1 run through first, no worries. Over here we have a dragon's teeth. We have a dragon's teeth defense, just some walls that are going to spread everything out, slow down the units. But over here we have absolutely nothing, and that is the trend that's going to continue around for a nice chunk of the map. Lots of undefended ramps and plenty of defended. All the kings have to do is pick their right ramps, and they should be able to run in quite nicely. For the kings, on the other hand, we do have a couple of players just starting to get their beamer defenses down. There won't be... all these beamers will not be completed by the 10-minute mark. I think about 2 of them will. They have a build time of 1 minute. What have we got a pause here for? Yes, we've got some... we do have some offensive structures that have been built in at the top. Just a friendly reminder to everyone that is playing, please do not do this. There is nothing the kings can do to stop you from building units like that in the top part of the map, and it does, and that is area denial that just cannot be allowed for the time being. We'd love to, we've considered removing those units completely, but the yep, and we've got some over here. We've considered removing these units completely, but they are quite necessary for defensive reasons, so it's very hard to balance that one out, and we just hope people read the rules. Alright, does look like we're starting to get some units coming out of the kings. Some spam coming out of the... Ooh, this is not enough eco, if I'm being honest. Only having a 24 wind. Definitely going to be needing some sort of fusion to assist. It is possible that Cookie Destroyer might distribute one out over time, but you really do have to get a level of your own economy rolling, otherwise you will struggle very hard to scale into the late game. Each fusion does produce 30 metal per second, and that 30 metal per second is going to scale very, very hard. Alright, couple of little things happening around the map, but nothing too important. We do look like we have an APHIS coming up in the top left side. They're going to be a bit metal starved, and the energy is balancing quite nicely actually, but they will be a little bit metal starved for producing this one, though they are at plus 63 metal, which means that there's a lot of income being floated towards these guys. Does look like with 20 seconds to go, let's have a zoom out and look at what we've got happening. If you bandbox the whole map, you can see all of the offensive units in white. Does look like the bottom right's going to have a decent force attacking them from the kings. Twig's got a good amount of welders ready for defenses. And the only place that's going to be super vulnerable for the kings is Tank Tom, but Tank Tom does have plenty of these Jaguars to clean things up, and there doesn't look to be too much in the way of offense. The Peasants also have not gone as heavily into the offense this time. Looks like only attacks down 4 ramps, and these are reasonably heavily defended ramps, so I don't think we're going to have any trouble. We are at the 10-minute mark. The lava has dropped down, so this is the go, go, go time. The blitz attack finding a nice strong wall with beamers behind and a comm getting into position to do any degun required. It does not look like we're going to have any trouble there at all. And the Kings have, big attack coming here from the top side, managing to get around most of those units. There does need to be a reaction. Good amount of Pounders coming in to try and intercept with some Twin Guards. Pounders are going to do a great job at killing these grunts and these pawns, but they're also very, very slow, and so some might creep through. Does look like a small amount are going to creep through, just 2 units, but Fiend's coming to clean this one up. That was a really good attempted attack. There is still potential though. There are still those 2 units alive, and it doesn't look like they are being chased, which means some of the infrastructure is going to go down. Push in, push in. There's so much more you could get than just that one wind that's getting healed. Unfortunately, not quite. Kings have managed to hold this time quite nicely, and Tank Tom is up the ramp with those Jags. He's going for the next ramp as well, it looks like. Losing quite a few of these to the pawns, allowing them to get up inside the Jag circle. Unfortunately, getting cleaned up, but that was still a very good attack. The front line is broken, and there is plenty of work that can head forward. Tank Tom's defense is being destroyed at the moment by some Arbiters on the high ground. That is A-OK. Those are not structures, so we are all for it. Tank Tom just has to work out a way to fire back. Looks like we've fallen into a bit of a lull right now, as the Kings have held quite nicely against that early aggression, and the Peasants have held decently well against the Kings' early aggression as well. And now we just need to see some scaling from both sides. Looking at the metal incomes, we do have 2,000 for the Peasants and 1,000 for the Kings, so a 100% advantage for the Peasants, but it is split between a lot of players, which means that it is not going to come to bear in any significant way at this point. The Kings now have had that extra couple of minutes to shore up their defenses, and I think that we're going to be in for a nice long one this time. Cookie Destroyer just scaling that eco in the middle. No reason for him to come online just yet. Metal production already at 250. Looking at the corner, first APHIS is up. Metal production of 77, and I do believe that that is the most advanced Peasant at the moment. So the power is definitely going to be with the Kings right now. High ground offensive shell shockers just over here. These can be shut down very nicely by some strategically placed long-range rocket artillery or something along the lines of the Quaker. Just need to see those coming up. But they're only doing damage to walls, so nothing super bad to worry about. Looks like a secondary offensive push is coming down from this red ramp. It's going to be running into mostly static defenses, and there is a nice big gap for them to walk through. Dragon's Fury will be avoided, but Welders are going to be stepping in the way. Dragon's Fury actually not going to be avoided, and immediately starting to reap a toll. Good crowd control units here, nothing should happen from that, as the Grunts then look to push through the middle, but with, again, plenty of anti-swarm defenses here, so I don't think there's going to be much pushing through over there. Twig expanding himself outwards, getting himself those rockets to be attacking the high ground, and to be countering the Arbiters that are on the high ground as well. This is a very rough position to be in if you are in one of these, I guess you call them bastion positions. Tank Tom is now a little bit on the back foot on this side. Units starting to move in. Unfortunately, Lashes are a very difficult unit to get offensive with. They are very slow to get up into the ramp, and they have very slow firepower, which is something that the Kings can deal with quite easily. But the Kings do also have to get into position to deal with them, and it doesn't look like Tank Tom is doing that at the moment. Instead, just scaling into that APHIS economy, which is what we want to be seeing. All these players keeping their economy up and running. Building an APHIS and a T3 lab is a big no-no. Build one or the other. Much faster if you build the eco first. We do need to see some sort of counter-attack happening to these top positions. It does look like we have Does look like we've got a couple of kings that have built artillery a bit offensively, just pinging those for the mods to remove. Should be taken care of momentarily. There is a Quaker there dealing damage, so it's not the biggest deal, but yes, even as the kings, please do not use structures offensively. Twig doing a great job of cleaning out the players opposite him, now getting some units up onto the high ground. Looks like one of his allies is using the termite in order to spot and push into the ground that has been broken by the arbiters, and Twig just actually not scaling too fast in the background, just getting some fusions going as he rolls along. Tank Tom holding up quite nicely, but definitely under a lot of pressure. Does need to get the unit production going. Jags are good, but right now it is snipers with a welder wall. You've got to be getting yourself your own starlights as well as spam if you want to counter that one. Got to be picking off those heavier frontline units, and then going in to sweep the snipers once they're exposed. Interesting fact that I've been told. Not entirely sure if it is true or not, but if it is, it's very, very cool. Welders take less damage from electricity, and Jags take less damage from electricity than other units. Very, very cool thing. Slightly mistimed attack between the two here, but does look like this offense is being blunted. Do have some ticks coming on through here. Those are actually drawing fire from the ambassadors, which is going to slow down, which is going to deal a lot of self-damage. Twig losing quite a few of these to the Quakers on the high ground. Need to get yourself some recluse up onto that ledge to take out the artillery tanks. Tank Tom is under a lot of pressure right now, unable to bring firepower to bear, even with Cookie's Jags helping. Definitely needs some bigger units to smash through a lot of what he is facing. Has been pushed back now, as the spam is doing decently well online. Looking at Tank Tom's economy, is efficiently spending that metal, but it is being spent mostly by these big blocks of build power hitting the economy. Time to transition into another APHIS. You do have enough build power for it. You do have enough advanced converters. The decision you got to make in this sort of position: eat the lab, build the APHIS, build the lab back. Don't try and do too many things at once is my recommendation. Epic fusion reactor. Yes, these things are my favorite. They go so boom. Once this is up, the kings will be in a very, very strong position. This thing produces 30,000 energy. It is the same economy as 10 APHIS. With that, Duffy will be truly online. One thing to bear in mind is that there is a unit limit between all the different players. It is split so that it is split by players, so overall the kings will be able to have less units than the peasants in total, which means that the peasants will be able to make better use of spam. And spam is super important. Well defended here by Tatsuyuka. Well defended by the light blue player. I'm really sorry about names. International names are not my forte, but I do appreciate you being here. Twig managing to keep this offensive up, but has not broken any of these positions. In fact, none of the kings have broken a position other than Tank Tom, but that position has been reclaimed. We do need to see some proper offense for the kings. Right as that epic fusion reactor is up and running, we're getting the epic converters. I want to see Duffy getting online and starting to punch through. Chain reaction on the left hand side from a couple of missiles from this Shiva. If you build your economies nice and densely up there, that can be a problem that you'll run into as soon as the kings get their artillery online. Looking around the map, we definitely are seeing the top very well defended. We're seeing the bottom half of the map has been a bit of a struggle, but everything is coming together quite nicely. And not too much damage has been done. Tank Tom losing 3 of his mechs positions, but that is not an overly large problem in the scheme of things. As Duffy is now coming online, building, we'll see in a moment, when the build power flicks over to him, but first tighten up, and we'll see just how many more start pumping out. All the build power is going up, and also all the energy overflowing to the rest of the team, so everybody is nice and flush on energy. All their conversions should be running very, very nicely, and hopefully hopefully Cookie Destroyer will manage to jump on through and push that eco even further, become the true eco king. Does look like we have had some Junos going down on ramp. Not sure which team fired those off. We shall... does look like that is the king using it. Just remember to keep your Junos in your half of the map. If you're a king, that means inside of this area. If you are a peasant, that means outside of this area. Alrighty then. No, Cookie pushing out all of the units, overflowing metal to everyone. Actually, everyone's metal economy is looking quite healthy in this bottom side because of that nice overflow. Almost 1,300 being built at any given time. No air. Oh dear. Anyway, Titans coming up in mass. These units should be very good if they are supported by spam and some T2 units for punching out. This could be the break the Kings need in order to get out of this circle. But there is an absolute boatload of spam coming in. If Tank Tom were to build Junos, now would be the time. Junos are going to be very, very necessary for the defense to stop that spam. Just remember to use them defensively. Looking over at Twig's side of things, the offense is going slow but steady. Definitely it does need to be pushing out a little bit more. We need to see the Kings get more on the offensive. The economies are running in scale with one another. The Kings sitting anywhere between 3,500 and 4,000. The Peasants sitting anywhere at 4,000 to 4,500. So we do need to see that scaling continue for the Kings. We also need to see them really get that offensive on. You cannot allow the Peasants to be running for 20 minutes, because if we look in the corner, we have a super Aphis coming up. We have Aphis farms already in multiple places. Yes, there is a unit limit. And the players are going to be starting, the players with huge wind farms and tick production are going to be starting to run into those unit limits. So you just have to be careful with exactly what you want to build. You have to replace your early ecos with late game ecos. For example, Tank Tom has an absolute boatload of T1 turrets and T1 converters. Those need to be changed into things like epic converters and T2 build turrets. You've got to make sure that you build the right things at the right time, and eat the things that you no longer need. Kargi attack coming up here. These are some very well defended mexes. I actually quite like that. The Kargi's struggling to make their way up, but we do have an epic Karganeth that is starting to punch his way up. Lots of health there, lots of damage. Is still taking a nice hefty chunk from the Starlights, but once it breaks up in here, I think it's going to be a big problem to deal with. You do need to get your comms in place to fight this. D-gun power is the real power of the game. When it comes to the Peasants, Peasants tend to win off of things like ludicrously good trades with the comms getting tens of thousands of metal damage done by getting the good D-guns. With the invisible, this one epic Karganeth is somewhere in the realms of 30,000 metal, just going down easily to a comm. Let me just click on the building. We'll find out exactly how much it is. Epic Karganeth, it's only 12,000, so it's not like it's a jug. But still, 12,000 metal from a single D-gun is le cheap. Tank Tom mass producing spam to try and assist with these Titans moving on in. I think the Titans were provided by Cookie Destroyer, and Tank Tom needs to be pushing these a bit more offensively. You've got to try and break these lines, get up there and do the damage like what's starting to happen over here. I'm trying to get up these ramps. We do have a strong Peasant force that is trying to make its way in here with so much long-range shelling coming through. We've got plenty of Arbiters, plenty of Snipers, and a good amount of spam. If these guys actually make it into the middle of the base, this could be a big problem. The Kings do need to work together in order to prevent this from happening. For example, the players to each side of them need to be getting units up to help. Being on the offense is definitely necessary, but if you lose an entire king, you're in really big trouble. Lots of little run-bys happening all over the map. Some hounds trying to get down, but that epic Kargi will clean it up. As you can see, even I'm catching up with this mess. And as you can see, because of the lack of help in the top, a huge amount of conversion and build power taken out for this player. That effectively knocks them out for the short term and makes it even harder to defend. We just have... Oh no, there we go, that's a king fallen. They're going to have to work very hard to get back into this, and that is now a hole that the Kings are going to have to defend. As soon as one hole opens up in the Kings, you do have to push on through. You do have to try and concentrate fire and push on through. We do have very strong Kings, we do have very strong king ecos, but unfortunately the units just aren't, the offense just has not happened, and the Peasants have been able to do a very, very strong job of pushing in and of ecoing up in the background. Just the sheer mass of units can be enough to overwhelm the Kings, and when they work together and all come down that one ramp, it can be a devastating amount of damage. That one epic Karganeth getting a lot of kills on those Arbiters right there. Very, very nicely done. But the Kings are in a bit of a dire strait right now. They're starting to fall behind in the metal production again, and that is always an indicator of a tipping point. They just do not seem to be able to make their way up these hills. The eco is very strong for them in the middle, but without actually breaking any of the Peasant positions, they're going to be in trouble. Great D-guns here coming out of this level 3 com. Looks like it might get another Titan. Yes, it does. Do have to make sure that you then collect the com. Unfortunately, has turned invisible, so not going to be picking him up just yet. Snipers reaping a terrible toll on the remaining Titans. The Evo comms definitely a little bit too much. Not sure why those ones are on. Very, very rough to fight the Evo comms, especially when there are 67 of them on the Kings team. And because they are evoing, they are producing more and more resources over time. And so that 67 comms producing 5 metal each, that is a nice and solid... I'm not going to do maths on stream, that'd be a really bad idea. Nice solid 300 odd metal. Does look like Tank Tom has tried to get his offense on over here, but unfortunately these Starlights will be picked up by just a little bit of fire from the high ground, as well as some good vision from mass spam units. Starlights do have a explosion radius when they go off, which means that packs of them, balls of them, do explode and chain react. Twig does look like he might be one of the first players to get up to the top of the ramp. A good amount of offensive units starting to chug their way up this ramp. Some spam and some Starlights for the heavy damage, and we also have Meatballs. Meatballs are a phenomenally good sieging unit. We discovered that last week while we were playing. These things just spit out so much firepower. They're like a Quaker that comes out of the T3 lab, but we do have an Evo com up here dishing out all of the D-guns. Great work there, and it doesn't look like it's going to go down anytime soon. So much of that T3 just absolutely destroyed These evocoms really are absolutely crazy, probably a little bit too much so considering just how many of them there are on the Peasant team. They are a ludicrously hard thing to fight up when comms have already been the deciding factor in so many of these games. Yes, as Twig is saying in game, yes, the evocom is, in my opinion, too much for this. The comms are already a really hard thing to push through even when they're not evocoms, but when they are quite crazy. Titans have held the top half of the map, but they are slowly being sieged down by a large number of vanguards, and we also have a lot of other long-range units. This top side of the map is just becoming a big fight, just to stay alive for the Kings, and it doesn't look like the bottom side's getting the offense on any time soon. The Peasants have done a very good job of scaling this one, and unfortunately the King's just not able to push up. When we start pushing the higher number of players, it becomes harder and harder for the Kings to push out, despite the ridiculous units and economy that they can get. Does look like Twig has pushed up with the spam again, but again, unfortunately, these comms just holding the line, and not a lot that's going to be breaking through 2 comms anytime soon, especially not with a third one coming up, and the backup of the units that will get there by the time they are needed. Twig's definitely got to scale that economy a bit over time before getting back into the unit production. He is falling a little bit behind the curve, or at least the curve of what's needed. We do have Scuttles making their way into the base, doing a good job of taking out some of those defenses. Scuttles, if you can get them in, and in particular if you can self-D them, they deal huge damage. Their self-D is much larger, kind of like the Juggernaut. If you position a Juggernaut against a cliff, say there or there, it can take out huge swaths of stuff if you self-detonate them. Duffy pushing units up into the top side, but there is just Titans into the top side, but there is just so much firepower that's going to be raining down on them. The Sheldon balls, all of the beamers that are about to become in range, the vanguards firing from all angles, the arbiters, the catapults. This is just a no-go push zone. Great defensive play from the Peasants in this corner. Somewhere else has to be chosen as a point of ingress. There are still plenty of places that ingress is possible, but with the comms, out or out in force, very hard to push in. Lots of Titans acting almost like spam, but again, they are going to be every shot that lands on a Titan, every Titan that's killed is a lot of metal that is going down, and it does actually look like Duffy's having, Cookie Destroyer is having trouble spending all of the metal. Between the team, they're doing alright. There are several players that are maxed out, but not every player is maxed out, which means that as a team, they're effectively spending all of the resources, but we do need to see more coming down. A big T1 push is coming from the bottom right hand side, and it does look like, based on all of the spam that's coming out, that it is not going to stop now that it's started. Plenty of stuff here to destroy it, but in such a mass it's possible that bits and pieces will sneak on through and take sections of the base with them as they do. Sometimes just a mass is enough to stop, to break through. With the counter spam though, the line of counter spam, it does look like this is going to be cleaned up without too much damage being done, especially with the towers in the background clean up the stragglers that start to make it through, and it's going to be lines of spam against one another. But there is spam coming in from the top side as well. It does look like it looks like all four sides are getting their offense on at the same time, with spam lines starting in the top right, in the top left, the top right, and in the bottom left as well. The bottom left supported by a lot of catapults, though Tank Tom is going to struggle to fight against this. That is a lot of starlight snipers and catapults that are going to start firing in. If they get just a little bit closer, they will be able to take out a lot of Tank Tom's build power. Tank Tom really getting the hard end of the stick this time round, as a lot of the offensive power has been focused on him for most of the game, because he got that first little run up into the enemy base. What have we got here? A couple of catapults just helping defend. These are going to be really strong for taking out these long range starlights. Catapults, great counter for snipers, for starlights, and even quakers at times. King's definitely on the back foot now, with an income of 5,500 for the Kings, and of 9,000 for the Peasants. And the offense is really starting to roll in from the Kings. Does look like we have one big push coming in the top side from the Kings. These epic Karganeths, though, just unfortunately not punching through in quite the right places. These units, part of their cost is their all-terrain capabilities. You've got to utilize those. If you're going to be pushing them up the ramp itself, I would recommend other units. Demons do very well, Juggernauts do very well, even Behemoths do ludicrously well. But if you're going to be building the Karganeths, then make sure to use them for their Karganeth power. Get yourself some other sorts of units that can traverse the cliffs. Get yourself the Vision, get yourself the Chaff, and then make your way up as you can. Find yourself those weak spots and punch on through. I do believe that might be what Twig is going to look at, though the Vanguard functions a little bit differently, as it is a long-range artillery unit. So it's not such a big deal. So being in the offensive front line is not going to be its role, more so just positioning. Big attack coming on the bottom left-hand side, as the red team is pushing in a large amount of T3. Unfortunately, though, there's just not enough spam, so some of these big, hard-hitting attacks, such as the Pulsar, are making their way onto the T3 units, dealing a lot of damage and preventing a lot of damage from being done in return. I do like pushing in and taking the damage where you can, but unfortunately these units were not able to break on through and do what they need to. But if we look at the top side, we do have, the top left side for the Kings, we do have some epic pawns that have tried to break their way in. Unfortunately, that epic bulwark, such a strong defensive building, just keeping everything safe. Offensive King trying to make his way in, but taken out by the mass firepower that Twig has here. Does look like there has been quite a battle going on there, but has been mostly dealt with. Trying to push up the ramp in the bottom right. The Kings are really trying to get their offensive play on, but look at all the comms just standing at the top of the ramp. That's going to make things very, very difficult. The Evo comms, in my opinion, just a little bit too strong for this one. When you have so many of them, it does look like the spam is starting to break its way in to Tank Tom's base. Little bit by little bit is going down, and Tank Tom unfortunately focusing on an epic Pulsar. Not quite the building that is needed for defending against the spam. It will be able to pick off some of those higher damage units, but something along the lines of your Dragon's Claws, even LLT, is probably slightly better suited to taking out all of this spam. Cookie Eater's Graveyard of Titans has been holding the top, but more and more long-range firepower is coming in to try to break through. These catapults going to be able to get a lot of damage done over time, along with the snipers, the negotiators, and now even Titans and Vanguards of the Peasant's own. What the? Looks like somebody has transitioned into air and we missed that one. Gotta be taking that one out. It turns out when you put on the extra units back, it may allow people to build air when you're not supposed to be able to, unfortunately. Little things can happen when we turn on all of the extra rules. Big offensive play here by one of the peasant kings. Has lost the king, but also took out all of the defensive T3 units. That is going to potentially open up a big hole that the peasants can exploit. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot here to exploit it at this moment. Just a lot of spam breaking through. This is the big scary right now, as we have a huge amount of we have a large amount of Sheldons backed up by Shivas, with spam providing vision, just slow pushing their way in. These will actually break those Titans over time. We do have some mini calamities up on the hill. These are technically breaking the rules, but there is also no economy. There are no buildings in range of them for Tank Tom, so I'm going to leave that one there, not focus too much on it, because this side is under a huge amount of threat at the moment. And the kings are just in general under a huge amount of threat. Twig is getting his offense on now again. The epic recluses doing exactly what I was talking about with what we want to see with those Kargis, using their all-terrain abilities to attack from an angle that was not defended. The comms have been out of position fighting on the front lines, and just based on what Twig has lost, I would say that Twig has been fighting on those front lines, trying to push in, but there is a lot of defenses here. We do have plenty of those starlights, plenty of the rattlesnakes, as well as the pulsars defending this. These units really do have to get some of their missiles onto the back lines if they're going to make up for their own value. The missiles will shoot through the shields, but unfortunately I think there is too much here for them to be able to fight their way in, and unfortunately these shields are going to stop most of the vanguard shots. Even if Twig was to know that those fusions were there, unfortunately it would not be able to hit them because of the shields. So really rough for the kings to be trying to push out at the moment. And it does look like the kings well and truly on the back foot, as Tank Tom holding out best as he can, but this ball of Shivas and of Sheldons is finally well and truly into that front line. As I mentioned, it would be getting to the bulls doing the right thing and punching through to try to take out some of that long range firepower, and also we're seeing a bit of self-damage as well because of them trying to fight in. But the Shivas have now managed to push past that front line, and they are potentially going to be taking out Tank Tom's eco. The epic pulsar is very slow to fire, and all these units have to do is fire at the correct thing. If they hit that build power next, that's going to be Tank Tom unable to build things for a while, and if they can push that little bit deeper and fire into those converters, they are most certainly going to do a lot of damage. That one shot there, oh no, blocked by the metal storage, just has to fire over. No, unfortunately for the peasants, doesn't manage to fire over the top and hit all of that economy. There is enough there that they potentially could have chain reacted, but Tank Tom is now low on build power, only having a couple of the T2 build powers, and the spam is now breaking through the front with the production of vehicles slowing right down. He's got the metal, he's got the energy, but he does not have the production capabilities. Getting the res bots up, but what is actually needed right now is just more build power. Does look like the Titan wall has finally fallen in at the top side of the map to this continuous shelling, and all of these catapults are now starting to break their way in. The Titans are doing a wonderful job at defense, but unfortunately there is just so much pouring in. The Titans can only shoot so fast, and there is only so much that can be brought up. What happened to the eco in the middle? I missed that completely. There is no massive explosion. There we go. That is, I believe that was a resign vote, and that is the Kings over and done with. Unfortunately for them, never able to quite leave that circle. Good game out of the Peasants. Did well to defend, did well on the offense, and did well on the scaling. If anyone can read this tiny chart, then you will see that the Peasants did 12 million damage and the Kings did 10, so very even there. The metal produced was just shy of 10 million for the Kings, for the Peasants, just shy of 6 million for the Peasants. See if we can see anything interesting on the graph. Damage dealt is going to be the one that we most want to look at. Plenty of Peasants getting right up in there with that damage dealt throughout the game. The Kings all did really well, very high damage out of all of them, but the fact there were so many Peasants doing very well in the mid and early game, all the way up to the end game, is absolutely fantastic. Metal produced, as you can see, Cookie Destroyer, massive, absolutely massive. But a couple of the Peasants matching a couple of the Kings, and then just all the rest bulking out. The middle looks like Twig and Tank Tom have joined me. That game definitely felt like it was in the favor of the Peasants. Those T3 comms were looked to be the absolute bane of your existence. Comms are already very hard to deal with under normal circumstances, but giving them all that extra health, all that extra damage, and those extra shields seemed to tip things very far in favor of the Peasants. 67 of those is a brutal thing to have to fight.
Yeah, almost impossible to push up those ramps. A couple Titans, handful of meatballs, about 20 starlights, and still couldn't get up a single ramp.
I got up my ramp early, but I just couldn't kill anything, because when you went past the comm, everything was dead and you couldn't kill the comms. That looks to be the lobby is resetting.
Yeah, it's crashed. We'll get that up and going again, and we might cap that at 80 people this time because it got way too slow.
Even I was lagging a few seconds behind for a chunk of that game. And yes, even in the comments on Twitch, people are saying that the Evo comms were a little too broken, and I do agree with that.
I do feel like if those weren't there, we might have secured the win. Would have been a lot closer, that's for sure.
I don't know if you would have won that one, because the Peasants did do quite well, but I think you would have at least made the game even.
The early game aggression just didn't land, was what I found.
I mean, a chunk of that was actually because of the Evo comms. The amount of extra damage.
That's what I mean. The Evo comms were chunky, because normally when you charge on up a ramp, you can, like, it's not uncommon that you'll kill comms along the way. When they die, they take out half the army. None of the comms died on the way past that round because they're all Evo comms and there was nowhere to kill them at T1.
And yes, we did see plenty of, as has been said in the chat a few times, there were quite a lot of times where I focused in on big attacks on comms, and huge amounts of firepower went into those comms, and they just did not go down. There was, in fact, one where Duffy was fighting an Evo comm with 15 Titans, and the Evo comm managed to kill 2 of the Titans and then get away. That's not something it should be able to do. So
no.
That's all right. That is, chat has asked many times for Evo comms in the past. We've always been very hesitant to do it, and this one just says quite plainly that the Evo comms are not the way to go for this one, and that is A-OK.
When you need masses of T3 to be able to deal with them, there's no way that you're getting up ramps if you can have a couple of comms on each ramp.
Potentially be doable if the Beyond All Reason devs could somehow split the unit cap between the teams. Of course, that was about 80 players in that game. That splits the total unit cap possible between every player, irrelevant of team size. So total units for the Kings, say, might have been 2,000, and the Peasants would have had 15,000 units allowed. So if the Kings are able to use spam, then those Evo comms wouldn't have been able to hide so easily.
Even when they hid, though, the amount of damage they took was truly insane. Like, truly insane.
It would mean that we can't kill them till we've got T3 pumping.
I watched
rather than,
I mean, I got to
I
a
watched
point
an
where
Evo
Starlights
comm.
were my frontline unit, like
Yeah.
taking the. They are not a good frontline unit.
I watched an Evo comm tank 4 epic Karganeths and not care. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. All right, I'm going to take a step back for a moment, leave the lobby with Twig and Tank Tom. They're going to start up and run us through the first couple minutes of the action, and I'll rejoin in and help commentate once we're more once most of the gameplay has started up. I could definitely feel myself flagging as that game was going on.
I reckon this one's going to be the last one for me.
I think this will probably be the last one for all of us. Is that right, Twig?
Yeah, well, unless it's a real quick one. We usually cap this at 1 hour from now. We won't start a game if it's anything less than half an hour before that 4-hour mark on a work night. Sorry, people, but do have a few lives to live over here. Phil,
however, if you get us to if you get our YouTube channel to like 50,000 subs, and everyone watches all our videos, then we can do this full time. That's when you guys post our links.
Thanks to copy and paste.
All right, Tom, I'll leave you with the responsibilities of picking out those kings. If there is one less king than what we need, if people drop out, Fel has asked to be a king. All right, what do we got?
Where is Phil?
I'm saying if there is less than 9, we've currently got 9, so we just assign them all 50%. I'm saying if they leave, that's just been a special request. All right, people, this will probably be the last one. We thank everyone that's been watching. Hopefully this last one's a doozy. Hope you're hitting record on all of these so we can use one for a replay. We like to assess these afterwards on our YouTube channel. Check out AllReasonNoLogic on YouTube and Twitch. There we go, Tom. We're down to 8. So, Fel, I do not know his full name in here. Send another message in chat, Fel, if you're listening, and Tom can move you down there. So yeah, King of the Hill, for anyone that's just joined in, this is where we put a small number of kings on top of a hill and put them up against the horde that we call the Peasants to keep things royal. We add a somewhere between 45 and 55% bonus depending on the team's skill level and the number of players in game. To the kings, we ask that structures do not be used offensively. Unfortunately, a lot of Junos get shot into the middle of these maps, taking away any spam and destroying any radars. It just comes a little bit too easy if you can use offensive structures. You're almost guaranteed to hit king economy because you know where it is. It's in the middle. So use those units to do all your assaulting. Couple more to go. We're looking to hit that 60. I think it's going to be 60 something first 9. 9's the perfect number of the cap for kings in this game because it allows each king to have 6 in between those cliffs or little holes in the middle of the map, and then 1 super king in the middle to take 7 mexes and focus on economy while each of the other kings gets 2 ramps to defend. Tip for the peasants: build lots of units. One of the best ways to beat kings is to rush them at the start of that 10-minute mark. At the same time, kings can defend quite easy against spam with the likes of jaguars or fiends, welders, etc. They do quite well. A couple more to ready up and we'll get things going. And guys, jump in chat if you got any advice on build orders. I don't know if anyone was watching my build in the last one. Or any tips for kings or peasants, or even just any random questions, throw them into the chat and we'll go through them. And yes, Darktooth Mojos, 50k subs it is. We would very much appreciate it if you could get us there. But 3 full-time wages off of 50k subs, I think we'll be still struggling a little bit. All right, are we good to go, Tom?
Just sorting out IDs.
Faithful IDs. I'll just put a ring into the chat, get things going. I am going to drop in the links to the Discord where you can join to coordinate with your team members, also the YouTube and the Twitch. Seeing as this is our last game, we are allowed to self-promote in the last game. So hit that subscribe and follow on the Twitch, subscribe on the YouTube, please. We very much appreciate it. Motivates us to do what we do. No, this is not Raptors. I am Meatwad. Interesting name there, mate. This is King of the Hill.
We've just had a quick question from Ivan on YouTube. Does the / give medal X to Y player work? I do not know. Does anyone know that?
I don't ever use the code. I
can't
just like
say
to
that
use
I've
those
ever
little
used it.
arrows down the bottom right, because of course you can share resources the normal way.
Couple players
Let's
just
test that
finding
out, Ivan.
Yeah.
Just jump into a single player game and test it out.
Or if you're in game, feel free to test it out with us in this on the stream. But yeah, it's some players finding it a bit hard to share resources with the ginormous list.
That is a very good point. Just doing our best to read through your questions, people. Keep posting them in there.
And if you are playing in the game, feel free to join the AllReasonNoLogic Discord, where there is a King's channel and a Peasant's channel. The coordination really does help in this game, particularly if you're trying to do those co-op eco spots.
There has been some good communication in there this evening. A couple of games where I've been in Kings with some of the others, there's been some great coordination for some of that co-op and planning out where they're going to attack. Yeah, just waiting on a download before we can start this last one up.
And for those listening as well, about half an hour ago, a video dropped on our channel, the 115 player game from last weekend, probably one of the better games that we've ever seen. We've gone back and cast that after the fact, having known the result, without giving anything away, but it didn't go the way I was expecting. It was quite a fun game, and also possibly the biggest King of the Hill in the history of mankind in RTS. 115
It
players.
sounds like a clickbait title if I've ever heard one.
Isn't it clickbait if there's not much content or anything behind it, though? There is a good game sitting there for you guys to watch. Just waiting for you. And to throw your support behind us, there's a like button below the video as well. One more to ready up and then we'll get going. Feel free to spec Tom if they do not see the message, they could be away. I'm loving seeing all these one chefs in the game. It means a lot of new players joining Beyond All Reason. Welcome. This is by far, in my opinion, the best RTS around. So unless we see this being a very quick game, this will probably be the last one of the night. So Peasants and Kings push hard at the start and we might squeeze one more in. But we've got a time limit of 40 minutes until I am as good as in bed. I am already having to get out of bed in 6 hours from now, and I'm hardly asleep right now, having casting a game online. My wife's sitting in the next room thinking, what an idiot, probably.
I don't think that's
Great to see
anything
some.
new.
Too true. Let's just get on
Yeah,
screen
she's
and
married
change
to you.
that. Oh,
She
you're already
must
ahead
know
of
what
me.
she's in for by now.
This is true. Thanks for the love, boys.
I mean, if we said anything nice to you, it would just be creepy.
It would feel wrong. I'd feel violated.
Great to see some of those new members jumping into the Discord this evening.
All right, quite a varied amount of teams. What do we got? Kings have plenty of chevrons. We've only got 1 4 chev, the rest 5 and above. A lot of silver tails. Over half the team above 20 OS. Couple in the 40s as well. Happiness, Evis. I have no idea. That's the name, by the way. I also have no idea.
I do like the fact that there are 5 silver chefs and 3 decently high chefs on the king team. That is always a good sign.
Oh, what's happened? Something's going wrong. I've missed that in the chat.
Battle ended.
Giraffe got put on. So it's having to click one at a time. Sorry,
Let me
people.
fix that.
We're probably our fault. We distracted Tom with too much chat at the start of the last game.
Okay. Everyone ready's up. We should be good to go.
I think we'll get a force ready. Have our lovely mod. Big thanks to Nightmare. He absolutely runs these. We just get to sit here and talk. He's doing the real action behind the scenes.
We've actually got
Flo as
3.
well in
Yeah.
Spectator and OP Man helping out where they can. A lot of love to these guys. Unless you're one of those people that build your commander right in the middle, then you don't get to play the rest of the game because they've deleted them. You probably don't have as much love, but still a lot of love to these guys. If you do put your commander in the middle of the map and you are a peasant, it will be deleted. And there'll be a nice 1,000 plus medal donation to the Kings. What are comms worth? Is it 1250? 1250 medal, I think.
Listen, that one guy to come back. That fixes it. There we go.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tom.
And thanks to Nightmare for helping out with setting up all of these bits and pieces. It definitely helps to have someone with all the powers assisting.
Could also put a shout out to Black Death, our personal moderator on the Discord and in the AllReasonNoLogic YouTube and Twitch, which I encourage watching if you want to see a perspective version of the game when one of us jump in there.
Can I has mod powers to delete buildings?
It would be fun. I feel like I should never be given that. I would absolutely abuse it too much.
I reckon I could handle the responsibility. It's mostly because I take way too long chatting and pinging things out while I'm commentating. If I could just delete things, then it would be very nice. I am not someone that can multitask.
50k events coming up, people. So I think that's going to be not too long. I'm just going to jump on the Discord. How many members are we at? How many members? I always forget. It's very hard to see on a PC. I'm going to quickly jump on my phone. Yeah, wow, 50,004. We've just passed 50k members. Congratulations to Beyond All Reason.
Just say that we've already hit the 50. That the Beyond All Reason
Just
Discord's
passed,
hit
like in the
50,000.
last 2 minutes.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's gonna be that means the event's gonna be coming right up. So super excited for that one, and well deserved, especially considering how much time we put into the game. I hope it's pretty obvious to everyone how much we enjoy it. I'll be looking forward to that, and if I'm available, hopefully going to be casting during it.
Yeah, hopefully it's not in 2 weekends' time, which I have a feeling it might be, because I think you're away.
It's an Australian long weekend, so yeah.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
I'll tell you what, though, if it does go anything like the 40k event, which went for multiple days, I will do my best to jump on in Australian evenings and host on the official Beyond All Reason bar or Discord a King of the Hill version for the 50k event. Depending on what they do, I got almost no idea. I'm sure they'll announce it to everyone. I have a feeling there might be a new map coming out. I could be wrong, could be right. We'll see.
I have seen a few that are under development specifically for the 50k event, trying to get as many people as they can.
One of them is very sexy. It would suit the King of the Hill style of the game, just from what I've seen in the Discord, in the mapping channel.
Just responding to Alien Doggy on YouTube, only 9 players for the Kings. Yes, and that's largely because there's only so much metal in the middle. So if you have a look, you've got those ones in the middle and then 2 ramps for each of the other players. So you basically end up with one person that can eco hit that T3 without having to worry about necessarily holding a front line at that 10-minute mark. And the rest of them have got the 2 ramps to hold with their T2 and a couple of defenses. Any more than that, you start running out of space for everyone.
That and, I mean, the benefit of having extra comms, unless you communism eco, like say 2 kings to each of those lanes that you just drew, Tom, you're not going to get up your eco that much faster, and unless you just have one player microing the other player macroing, it just doesn't seem to work that much better. Having more kings than what we see now. We have tried it with a few more, just gets a bit messy.
Yeah, it's
Even
kind of
in
like
the
with the
middle.
AI, when you stick too many of them on one team, they all start getting in each other's way and becoming much less effective.
We've got Evers in the middle, surprisingly not building any res bots. Sorry, just the one res bot. Funding some of that T2 economy. The orange player getting a little bit greedy and taking some of that as well. Usually I like to see the Super King in the middle get all of that, just so that they can focus on getting that first AFS up before the 10-minute mark and supporting whichever lane needs the most support. So the King, what do you reckon, Tom? What's some of the best approaches to breach these ramps?
Ideally, you've got some spam. I like having a little bit just so you can scout which ramp's free. There's a good chance that if someone's throwing units down a ramp, there's going to be less defenses. Just because if the economy's gone into the units, then they probably don't have the economy to also heavily defend the same ramp. So often, whenever you get hit with units, if you can hold them off, that's then a good opportunity to head back up the same ramp and see what you can find.
Personally, for composition, I go for the Recluse and Weber composition if I'm going to do an early push. Just rather than attacking a ramp, which is usually the most defended, I like to just walk straight over the middle of one of the hills. Usually one straight away out from whichever base I start at. I mean, last game, Evolving Commanders didn't work very well for me at all. Just everything got degunned. But usually these that attack will at least take out one player, and if you can take out one player in those first couple minutes after the no rush, it really eases the pressure in your lane because everyone's scrambling to help them rebuild, giving away some of their eco. It takes away a bit of APM, and APM is probably one of the biggest factors for King of the Hill games, even more than metal.
I'm definitely a fan of running the sort of 10 to 15 jags with maybe a couple of bulls for knocking down walls if required. because that's normally enough to get you up a ramp, and then you can generally take out at least a player with that.
Yeah, I actually copied one of. Excuse me, getting late. I copied one of your ideas on the previous game. I went into ambassadors, and they worked really well for me. I didn't push them down into the ramps, but I managed to use them to clear absolutely everything on the hills close to my base.
If
There's nothing they can really do against them.
if you build ambassadors or similar, if you pop them right here, they basically become an unkillable missile platform that denies the entire upper reach. 100% recommend. Unless they can get ambassadors or equivalent to and manual fire down into that spot, there's basically no artillery that can hit them, no units that can hit them. The comm can walk up and degun them, but if you've got other units like spiders that you then poke up and down with, very, very strong.
I've found with the King of the Hill stuff, a lot of the time, rather than fight commanding things in, because there'll often be some spam or other units in front, manually targeting over the front to hit those armies and static defenses does a lot of work. So rather than just hitting whatever's standing at the front, if you manual fire into the backline of the unit compositions with some of those long range artillery, that does a lot of damage to be able to break that front to then get your spam rolling through and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So Legion's on this game, guys. Really love the look of Legion, but still there's a lot of talk about including them in the main game. There's still a bit of development to be done. I still think there's a lot of balancing to happen with Legion. There's too many things that you can do with Legion that are just a bit OP. One that I saw in a couple games this week is just using those, the T1, what are they called? Ballistas, the medium rocket bots. Having them just in range of a construction turret is just so powerful in early game. Like if you get only 5 or 6 of them and you have construction turret and a commander with them, just keeping them healing, they do so much damage, being more of like a tier 1.5 rocket bot. Obviously taking out all the LLTs, and you get 5 of them to walk into a beam and they'll take it out too without dying because they've got so much health. And
Damn.
yeah, so a few things like that I'd like to see balanced out of the Legion bot lab. Legion team in general. And yeah, maybe.
Was it the Phalanx or something that we saw a couple of weeks back that was incredibly strong for being able to siege, well, not siege, but just bully their way into the middle against the Kings?
Was that the tank? There was like a tank.
It was the guys with the shield, I'm fairly certain.
Those ones. Karkinos, is it? I don't know.
We'll have to wait until we see some, because I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I reckon it might be medium dual weapon infantry bot, the Karkinos. They are quite beefy. 120 to 160 damage. Good line of sight at 400. Range 360. And 1540 hit points. Reasonably good.
Just jumping into the state of the game, I think the Kings are in pretty big trouble. We're at 8 minutes, and
yes.
we're yet to have a fusion for the Kings.
Well, maybe the Peasants will actually... I'm just hearing
First fusion's just finished up. We don't see as much for the Peasants either.
I mean, there's Aphis at the top left corner.
I'm just blind then.
Reminder people, if you manage to win this one in the first, let's say, 7 minutes of the no rush, we might do another game, because we do have 30 minutes left.
So to put in perspective, in the last game, at the 10-minute mark, the Kings were at plus 1,000 metal.
And they're at 630 right now.
Yes.
Yikes. Well,
Peasants were at plus 2,000 as well, so...
Pretty much every king had a fusion up last game, did they?
Yes.
Yeah, I think everyone got at least a fusion up. That's the standard that we like to see is fusion, T2, some static defense to stop an early T1 push, and units ready to rock and roll to either push up a ramp or hold that first wave and then get out and do some damage.
For a little while I used to go into 2 fusion, greet a second fusion before the 10 minutes, and then go into units last minute. I've gone back to the 1 fusion build order just because then I can afford to get a lot more units out by that 10-minute mark.
If you
I'm
want to
getting
get
a
real
lot of
greedy, you can go
shots.
straight into the Aphis. But that gets real tight on timing. I remember I think the earliest I got one up was 8 minutes, but normally it's at like 9.5, 10.
All right, everybody, we've hit that magical 10-minute mark. Let's have a quick drag over the map. Let's see where the offensive units are. Looks like they're on the top middle and the bottom left. Bottom left is going to be walking in somewhat unopposed. There is a whole bunch of blitzers that are going to be making their way in. Thankfully, some fiends out to defend this, and a very slow walking mammoth. A second mammoth potentially going to be in the way as well. The fiends, though, with their AoE, going to do a lot of damage to those blitzers, but I do think a couple blitzers may just make it through.
Not bad decision making there to just run them through, realizing that you're going to lose some, but you'll make it through. And good to see that change in direction.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, realizing that
just go for the base. Go for the base, damn it.
Oh no.
You're
juicy
there,
conversion.
you've won. All you have to do is push. But
into the middle. Into the middle.
Go to the
Pretty disappointing that only one player's properly pushed from the peasants. It means I don't think we're going to see more than one game.
Yeah.
Sorry, this will be the last game for the night.
Well, that was well defended, but not exactly because of the defense, mostly because of the indecision of the peasant. Sometimes you just have to...
coming in from this top right corner made it past the one static defense that was there, and they look to be on track to get to the middle.
Just keep going, push straight to the middle, kill the Eco King, and you'll be in a great spot. There is plenty of damage here. All you've got to do is run on in. You know that the moment you get past that middle bit, just keep running, because there's nothing that's going to be able to stop you. Just keep going. Just keep going. No. Just keep going. Just keep going. Don't kill that stuff. Go to the middle. Yes.
I can understand going back just enough to be able to take out that mechs, but at this point, you just charge on in.
Just don't worry about the mechs. Your biggest thing, if you can... Oh, that was a lot of losses to explosions.
Oh, get around the other side of that. So then you can take out...
converters.
If you decisively go for the middle, you would have been able to easily grab those advanced converters. Does look like we have a scuttle trying to make their way into the middle of the base, but it is running up against some terrain issues. It was able to get into the hole, but it wasn't able to get out, and now has been found by those pawns. Would have been phenomenal to pick that up. It looks like a decent amount of fighting has been happening on the bottom left-hand side during all of this. Lots of corpses on the ground, but unfortunately for the peasants, no significant damage done to the kings yet. The kings, on the other hand, are mostly in a defensive posture. There is some potential coming on the right side, but this is a T1 push going up the ramp, and it will be fighting other T1 units, so I don't see that doing a lot of damage any time soon. So we are going to be at a bit of a 12-minute stalemate, which means this could be anyone's game. But I do think that the peasants are scaling slightly more efficiently than the kings. Good little push on the bottom left-hand side, but there is plenty of defense to stop these. The Phalanxes are a good unit, but you do need something to back them up. I actually really like their design. They remind me of like just a dude walking around in a tin, like in a barrel, just with a gun poking out. Very aesthetically pleasing.
That's right, just disappeared. Just a reminder to everyone listening, you cannot build structures that can reach the opponent's mexes. So you can see Orange just lost 2 of the rattlesnakes. It's a lot of metal to just disappear to a moderator. A lot of damage getting done on the bottom left. Wind going down, chain reacting. Unfortunately, when there's a lack of space, wind is bunched up quite a bit and drops real quick.
The DPS out of these hoplites is great. Interestingly, I'm not seeing them rank up very much. They're getting quite a lot of damage done, but they're not getting much in the way of XP for it. I think if those things start ranking up, they'll be kind of crazy. Second wave coming in this time. It is Jags, but there is a comm in the way. This is going to be some great D guns out of the comm. A nice solid 8 Jags, 9 Jags taken down. No walkers, and it does look like it's going to get a. Does look like it's going to get a mammoth as well. The comm is a little bit faster than the mammoth, and so it should be able to grab that one. But no,
Oh, good dodge.
that one phalanx getting in front of the comm. No energy. Oh no, just enough for a D gun. Bugger. Mammy took out 2 cons, but not the third. Still, that is a hero mammoth in my books.
3 mammoths
Yeah,
coming up this ramp
Kings-
next to it as well.
Although the Kings are not doing amazingly, they are doing better than the Kings did last game, despite the poorer eco. Without those evolving commanders, nicely
They can
done
actually
on the
get up
bottom
and deal
left.
that damage into those bases.
Very
Yeah, I'd love
good.
to see those 3 mammoths keep pushing, because 3
Yeah,
mammoths
would-
definitely, although being
go
D
sh-
guns, if they're kept separate, only 1 or 2 might go down, and the third one should be able to take a comm out.
Ah, here we go.
Unfortunately,
And
just a
he's
little
just
bit of an
waiting for the
APM
spam to
stall
come
right there.
through.
But we'll efficiently trade with those welders, so not the end of the world.
And now that he's got some spam in front of them, it looks like they're on the move. Would love to see him just crash through those walls to make up some extra paths through there.
We do have a push on the top right. That's just a
Oh
bunch of
yes,
Sumos
go the
walking into a
recluse, get
bunch
up
of-
there. Get into that
brutes.
next tier. Once you're up on that next tier, there is almost never any defense up there. It's just getting up there that's the problem. No. Go kill the eco players. Do it.
Power of hindsight.
Do it. Make us happy. Kill the eco players. You don't need to kill, this is the biggest thing. You don't need to kill the defenses in front of the ramps. You need to kill the things powering the defenses in front of the ramps.
Nice
And then
kills
once
there.
they can't shoot back, then you can clean them up nice and easy.
Does it look like 2 comms are coming in to try and kill off those mammoths? And I reckon that they're both going to be taken. Oh, 1 down. Potential. There's potential right here. 1 mammoth down. And I reckon, yeah, both mammoths go down.
Yeah.
But they do take 1 comm with them. Unfortunately for the Kings, though, the comms are in resable positions. And it does look like that attack has been mostly thwarted with the recluses. Could you imagine if the recluses had gone up into this super dense eco zone? Ugh. Opportunity.
All of that conversion would have gone. Would have changed across to some of that wind.
You can keep a recluse quite far back from eco as well. You can have even like an Aphis explosion.
They've got reasonable
Actually, no,
range,
an Aphis
don't
I
they?
think will kill it, but a fusion's explosion won't damage the.
If they have to die to take out the Aphis, I call that a
Oh, it's worth
worthy
it.
trade.
It's worth
Definitely
it.
a win. Definitely a win. Oh man, people keep building. Sorry, just writing some notes.
What do we got? And it looks like we have a good siege happening on the left side. The vanguards, the ambassadors with some nice strong Thanatos in front are starting to push up on the top left side of the map, just dealing damage from well and truly out of range of
Oh,
everything.
we've got a breach, and some build power goes down on the top right, with a fiend getting through and taking out the build power for the cream commander. Nicely done.
Losing the
Thankfully,
build
there are
power
some-
hurts.
Thankfully, there are some plenty big units that are going to stop that from being too much of a big deal pushing through.
Heather's
And
not
we'll
really
see
able
what
to find
happens
any
with the
damage so far.
counter-offensive. But right now, the big offensive play is happening in the top left, as a bunch of the economy is being taken out by all of these units pushing up. This long-range firepower with a couple of smaller units in front is doing a great job, and we've seen how powerful the assimilators are. The biggest threat, again, it's always comms. You need to have T1 units in front. What happened there? Stray shot up into the top side of the map, absolutely destroying an economy.
And no one's reacting. Everyone's just building eco. This is terrible teamwork from the top
Build
left
the
where we have a
eco.
strong-
Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. Nobody needs units. We have comms.
Doesn't matter if you lose the game as long as you get that
long
little
as-
sentence on the bottom saying this person built the most resources.
I've been
The
in a
problem is you
supreme.
need to
I've
need
been in
to
a
defend the
supreme infamous
resources.
game. One which it was one where I won. I was the eco player for my team, and somebody massively out ecoed me on the other team. We're talking for every APHIS I had, they had 5, but I still won. And do you know what they got? What award they got? Slept
Eco?
the longest. They never built a single unit.
Yeah,
45-minute
having-
game, no units.
Yeah, building all the eco in the world means nothing if it doesn't turn into anything that can shoot back.
I'm really curious how they keep seeing these comms. Even with the invisible comms,
These
the
simulators are
absolutely deadly.
yeah, that range
there
and
goes-
firepower.
Bulk.
That person just Victor unfortunately deserved to die. Not one unit coming out of your what's that? 8 aphises currently standing
Oh, this
up.
could be a big
These
D
are
gun.
amphibious
This
as
could be a big
well.
D gun. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, but
Nice.
one assimilator still made it in. That's going to be the APHIS.
All that they need to do is put down a pop-up turret, put down the pit bull
comm is
in
coming.
the range of that filter.
There's a comm coming. Can it get the assimilator before? Oh, if you position yourself right next to the APHIS, the D gun will hit the APHIS anyway.
It needs to heal with that aphis.
Come
rather
on,
than-
come on. What just happened?
Eaten by build power?
There's no build power to eat it.
There was a little bit
What's
here,
happening?
but it had enough health that I wouldn't have thought that would do it in.
Oh, hang on.
Very nice.
That is great.
Very nicely done.
And that's people why you should never greed too much. The strongest eco for the peasants going in the bin.
Got to transition to units when your side is under threat, and that is a lesson to be learned just there. And it does mean that the Kings now have a really good position that they can launch from. They can also take this top right-hand side. If they do, they've got a huge amount of extra space, extra eco, and and they can close off so many fronts, because if they hold at the 2 midpoints, then that frees up essentially 2.5 Kings to start moving on and doing other things. But the offensive in this area does continue. We've got the fast movers and the sieges that are making their way up into the base. The marauders pushing from the front, the vanguards sieging from the back, marauders on the left, and Horns making their way in. They've seen one of the comms, they're getting into range of the comms, and it does look like these marauders have a mission and they're going to be fighting the comms and trying not to die to them. Calm down. Doing a really good job of fighting around these comms and not just losing units to them. This is going to be a tough bit of defense because there are rattlesnakes, there are pulsars and plenty of these amputators that are going to be working their way in. But the Kings now do have a beachhead on that top side, and the economies by the 23-minute mark are reasonably equal, which is not a bad place to be in as a king. We just need to see more and more stuff happening from them. I do like the spam that's heading up to the top right, but there are no units taking advantage of that spam. You need some sort of sieger in order to make that spam worth it. Right now, the units are dying for nothing. But if they were backed up by some vanguards, backed up by some any sort of rocket bots,
Big water push on the top.
anything like that, and it would be well worth. Oof, that is a lot of marauders, and it doesn't look like there's going to be a comm in the way to push them back if they continue up that high road. So it's going to be able to break on in. Plenty of fusion there, plenty of wind, and look at all of this juicy economy right in front of them if they go down that way. Very, very
Honestly,
nice.
peasants, you gotta build units. Not enough reaction out of a lot of lanes.
Oh, this
Yeah.
will be interesting. Left side. There's a
Oh,
push
Marauders coming in to fight the Kings now. T3 is now going to be a problem for the Kings, and this is walking into, again, an undefended, reasonably undefended area. There's a couple of Praetorians that are very
Praetorians that
strong.
have just come out. Good to see those Marauders splitting up.
But
Yeah,
the
you see one Apis go down. Get that
Oof.
build power and the conversion.
build power
first.
is eating those Marauders, thankfully. These T2 build towers are very, very strong, but I reckon
Very
one
tanky.
might just make it. No, not quite.
Those three have made it into the lane next door.
Oh no, and they're at the conversion
And
too.
The converter's going to go pop. And
Oof,
then
and
the
that's the
fusions are
build
going to
power
go pop.
too. Oh, the Aphis
Not quite
survived. That was
Aphis.
so close. That is a very recoverable position, but it does take yellow out of the fight temporarily.
They've still got the
Meanwhile,
build,
meanwhile,
some build
Pink
power to
is
get them up and running.
Meanwhile, Pink is continuing to push on this top side. Unfortunately, they're going through the more defended areas, but they have now seen all of that eco in the back, and they're sending the Marauders away from the comm. But the comm does get a half-decent D-gun on, and does get taken down. But the Marauders are in that back eco. All of that wind, all of that conversion is right for the picking, as well as all of those fusions. And because of the placement of those conversions, they go down super, super fast. Those Marauders get so much value.
Whenever you make it into the outer ring, rather than trying to hit any of the defenses, you can just go basically along the outside edge, where it's nothing but economies normally, and then worry about the defenses if you need to. But as you can see here, they're making their way around, and don't really have to go back down a ramp anytime soon. Once you're up, there's no reason to come back into the middle.
I'm seeing a couple of the pylons that are helping to defend against these Marauders. For anyone that is playing Legion and listening, get yourself pylons. We have seen them being so ludicrously effective in these
actually
games.
They've been nerfed quite a bit. I saw a post in our Discord that after our King of the Hill game where we saw how much damage they did, they got a big...
We are change makers.
I think I saw someone saying that they got 60% change in cost, and maybe I'm getting that wrong.
Marauders are making it into the bottom left, coming out of the middle. Some good D-guns coming out there, but
every week there's always one MVP unit, and this seems to be the week of the Marauder. We see almost none of them, but we've had multiple games where they've been star units tonight.
They're just so fast. I love the Marauder. They are one of the most fun units to control in the game, especially the early Marauders, ones that you don't expect to see for another few minutes.
Does look like a counterattack is heading towards the Yellow King. We have a very large number of welders, and they're backed up by recluses. Unfortunately, though, not going in at the same time, so the welders are going to take an absolute pounding without that longer range firepower there to help them. And I do think there's enough here to defend, especially with these larger construction turrets, being able to heal a lot of the damage that is coming in. Also decent range on those, so they should be able to grab a bunch. There should be plenty of reclaim to be had for the king. We've got some epic tumbleweeds that are heading up the oranges ramps.
You mean mobile nukes?
They are in fact mobile nukes. They're very, very scary things, and they go straight up cliffs too. I might add. So that's going to be some interesting breakages right here. Even if they do get degunned, their explosion is still going to be relatively massive. Just be depending on how deep they go. I also think they run over units, don't they? Yes, they do. And there goes those tanks. Boom!
Oh. I love the effects. Some of the recent updates that bars have had, including that light update recently,
it makes it all
brilliant.
so pretty.
Does look like a big attack on this left side is going to be cleaning everything up. We have a Soul Invictus, aka
supported by those films.
And then a bunch of Marauders coming up to support. It is totally okay for the comms to be getting D-guns on Marauders if they're not getting them on the Soul Invictus. And this is going to be an entire quarter of the map cleaned up for the Kings. Make sure you get in there. Claim all of those mexes. There are something like there's something like 20 T2 mexes available up in this corner, which can catapult your economy. And in the top right side, we've got yet another Marauder push. This time, quite heavy resistance. I don't think it's going to get super far in because we've got all of the... Oh wow, there's a epic tumbleweed heading down towards them
if
as
that
well.
blows,
The
that is in
Kings,
the danger zone.
the Kings need to deal with that epic tumbleweed ASAP because of how much damage it can do in a small space.
Speaking of bottom right, you might just catch the next one exploding. For the
Excellent.
Kings.
Just remember,
Look
if
at
you
the
do have an epic tumbleweed, please do control D it. The explosion is even bigger.
Or control B if you're playing.
Or control
with the
B
Kings.
if you're on weird person controls. I don't actually. I probably shouldn't say that because I think that's
You can
the
tell
default
when
these
someone's
days.
joined the. We've got legacy keys because we've been here a while, but anyone who's joined much more recently is on grid keys. And then if you're like Twig, you just complain that you can't work out how to use the controls anymore because someone changed them on you.
Another reason why I won't be joining 8 vs 8 rank games anytime soon again.
You can't. It's been 5 months. You can't keep using that excuse.
I'm doing alright with them now.
Does look like the Peasants are getting their offensive on the right hand side. They've got a large number of Vanguards that are supporting some spam along with some Razorbacks and a Titan. This does actually need to be dealt with. This is enough that can... These Vanguards don't actually have to get that much closer to start punching into the base.
And they can see some of the conversion as well, so it is in eye shot. They just need to keep some units in front of it. And they could do a lot of damage. Vanguards with a massive range of, what is it, 1450.
And we're also seeing a decently long-range assault coming in onto the Primogen guy. Primogen guy has definitely struggled to scale through this
Marauder
game.
making it into that top right corner. Ooh, what are they? The rattles coming through, cleaning that up.
A very, very heavy tank. 25,000 metal to build one of those.
Where's
It's
this
like a
happening?
shotgun. On the right hand side. And that green player with all the Sheldon, if they just walked straight in, they probably could have got to that eco.
So much damage could have been had, but unfortunately for the Peasants, the Kings have cleaned this up quite nicely, and they are bringing forces to bear to defend this weaker side. And then we also
is a
do
lot
have
of
an
pylons on the
absolutely
left.
massive attack
Oh yeah.
coming down on the bottom left-hand side. Pylons have piled up. And are starting to make their way up. Ortab is there ready to get some good D-guns off, but that is a very low health comm, so only got the one D-gun off. Doesn't look like any other comms are reacting straight away, but even if they do, there are so many of these units that the damage that will come out of them will be staggering. The comm will only get a couple of shots off. You have to really position yourself to get it right, and the reaction out of the brown player means that these units are going to just push on through. They are heading straight for another comm. I don't know if that one is being controlled or not. There it is. It is starting to move now, but I think it's going to be destroyed before the D-gun gets off on it. Oh, devastating. Devastating comm. 26 pylon kills on that comm before it goes down. What an amount of damage. But there is just still so many coming on through. I think that there's a pylon for every single pawn that is coming out from that back line, and I would say that all of those pylons will beat all of those pawns. And it does look like this backline might be ready to break. More tumbleweeds heading on through, and I'm not sure what happened to the tumbleweed from
Look
the
top
top
right.
left.
We're going to see we're going to see a bright breach. Some very fast units. Kill them once again.
Send them in.
All it takes is one to get through. The rat there. See how much that damage the rat does. Just explosive damage. Can they see the conversion across the map? They can't. Imagine if there was one catapult.
Imagine if a single tick made it near the conversion and the rat decided to try and kill it.
Unfortunately for those pylons, that indecision has cost them the ability to swing the match. If they'd all run in instead of moving side to side, I reckon it would have been quite different, and it does look like the the bottom left has just been cleaned up. Kings now own half of the map, unfortunately not quite doing anything with it. Big advice to anyone that is playing these ones, just grab yourself a bunch of extra T2 builders and send them on up into areas that you have taken. Get those T2 labs up and running. So those T2 metal production up and
T2
running.
area mexes.
Yes.
Send them
Thank
out
you.
there. After a while, they'll do a whole bunch of them. Suddenly you've got twice the eco.
We've got a resign vote being called by the peasants. I actually think that that's a bit premature, because there is actually a big
The
weakness.
top right is threatening.
Yeah. The top
I'd love
right
to
is
see something.
If these armies just all went in at the same time and managed to just collect one of those T2
I'd
advancing
love to see some
builders,
get in on that pink economy, because you don't necessarily have to kill it. You just need to die near it. Because with the artillery that's available now out of the Kings, they can kill their own stuff just as easily as they can kill you.
Just as a comment for the Kings, if you want to guarantee the wind condition, then even though you're wrapping things up on this bottom side, the yellow player and the brown player, stop doing that, send your units to the top side and start wrapping up from the top side down. Because that will guarantee the Kings a victory, because all it takes, and all it ever takes to break the Kings, is one push.
There's one unit.
One push is all that's needed.
Yeah, this bottom right side hasn't been
Here we go.
oiled.
This might actually be the push. We've only got a couple of Razorbacks in the way, and we've got 16 pylons and 2 Daedalus heading in, walking straight for the
without
middle.
stopping. I have to, yeah.
Or if they just don't stop, they might be able to do this. I don't know how well pylons now match up against Razorbacks, though it doesn't look to be as well as they used to. No.
I'm being called back.
Oh,
I still think they possibly would have made it.
I reckon they
having
may
said
have
that,
made
there's
it.
too many Rats.
The Daedaluses were doing really good damage to those to the Razorbacks, and all you needed was 1 or 2 of those units to break on it through.
You can see that half those Razorbacks are now dead, and most of that army is still available.
I reckon they were trading pretty evenly, but evenly provided that the peasants win with 1 or 2 units is good enough to punch into that middle.
Yeah, you only need a couple of units to make it into the middle. You don't need a whole army to get there.
Yep. And here we go. This is the next big push. We now have 20 Daedaluses. The Razorbacks have been destroyed. There are 2 rates, 3. Oh no, there's too many. There are too many. That hole has now been patched.
Rats are just OP.
They're not OP. They're just very strong.
Yes.
Very expensive, do what they...
They are an
Although-
experimental unit, obviously, and those shotguns, they're kind of like a whole bunch of plasma. Well, they are.
That film
Actually,
has made it past.
oh.
Nice to the next ones.
Damn it.
But
We
that's what
wanna
we're
see
saying.
You want to see it?
Those rats are... How much do they cost? They are 25,000. And yep, they're doing a better job against like spam units than Juggernaut is, but I doubt a rat could beat a Juggernaut. I don't even think it would be close. Just by the way, with that explosion finished off some solar that was all the way back here.
Yeah, those explosions go a long way.
And like we're seeing the Titans are trading really well against the rats. Because each Titan is significantly cheaper than a rat. A Titan is only 13,000, so it's about half the cost. And they're trading at a rate of about 1-to-1. So it's all about putting the right unit in the right matchup. Does look like the
they might-
orange player might have lagged out, maybe? Or maybe colors have just spun around, I'm not sure. But the king in the bottom right seems to have... Oh! Lava's come
The
back.
lava came back. That means this game has gone for quite some time.
Oh, does it cycle up and down on this one?
Yes.
Well, that naturally, we just didn't put the number high enough. I think it got put to half an hour. So we just need to remember that for the next time.
I think that with these, the lava only deals, I think it's like 23 damage a second. I think that the units that are happening right now are well and truly going to be strong enough to not worry about that lava, as we do have a massive pylon attack coming in the top right hand side, and there is not a lot to deal with. The Daedalus are trading quite well against it, but there are just so many of them, and it doesn't look like we have, it looks like we've only got one comm in the way leading to a large eco center, and we do have an epic fusion reactor that needs to be detonated. Why is the lava rising even more?
I think it's just getting to its original position, but there's been so many holes in the map where commanders have died, so it's raising more and more.
If you look at the edges of the map, it keeps spilling over just a little bit, which is quite concerning.
I'm not going to go up any more because that is right on the amount that it's going to take out all that lower eco on the right hand side for the peasants. That would not be good.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing on the left-hand side of the screen? It looks
I was
like the
waiting for you
scavs
to
have been
notice that.
spawned in. Top left, the scavs have been spawned in.
They've been there for a little while, so it doesn't look like there's too much at this stage. However, I think the Kings had seen it. Yeah, the King can see it on radar.
Okay. Just looking at these bastions. These bastions are annihilating those rats. Watch what happens when the 3 bastions all start shooting that front rat. That thing is gonna go down super fast. Look at that. 40%. 30, 20%.
Yeah.
That's
Lava's
crazy.
probably doing a bit of that too.
A little bit like some of the other things have
The
done. little
lava's
bits of
like
these.
a
The lava
percent
does
a
23
second-ish.
damage a second. That's nothing.
You can see the difference when all 3 are on the same one compared to not.
To just one, yeah. And now we've got the Sol Invictus helping to defend as well. The Kings are
With
going to
the-
have to eco up for a moment and get ready for a next big push to finish this one off. The Peasants have entrenched themselves very nicely in their positions, and the Kings are going to have to find a way to break them up.
With those 3 towers, they would have been getting some surround bonus because they were attacking from different angles, which would have increased the damage that they were outputting.
What's the angle on that, actually? Lava has been
Uh,
dropped just a
Some
little bit.
spiders got so close. Epic Recluse.
Oh,
Just on the range of being able to hit some Aphis, and they're going to get cleaned up by those riders.
My understanding with the surround bonus is if the damage is dealt from 180 degrees from the last instance of damage, it's doubled. Like it deals an extra 100%, and it kind of gradiates from there.
interesting.
I'd have to go look it up again. So it's the sort of thing, if you have something attacking from the front and say a tick behind, then they'll both be doing a bonus 100% damage. If they're at like 90 degrees to each other, they'll both be doing 150%, I think it was. Like you get a bonus 50% damage from it, and that's why when you surround things, you deal so much more damage than just fighting it front on.
Yeah. Sol Invictus heroically trying to push in on the bottom side, but cleaned up by a comm. And now we have some incinerators that are just taking out these just trying to take out these Praetorians on the cliff. What are the Kings producing at the moment? Because they're not producing a lot. Are they at unit count? They can't be.
444 units each.
Not far off. There's most just sitting. No, they're not unit cap. They're sitting at like 200 to 300 each.
Right, they're just not taking on the Peasants at the moment, which is interesting. Does look like a big Titan push is heading on up from the right hand side, and it's going to be supported by some pylons. But with them not going through at the same time, I think they're going to meet a pretty ugly fate from a lot of these rats that are up the top here. Good amount of Titan corpses right there, and this is where you start to need things like the behemoth, just to break these last little sieges over here. Getting a lot of map bouncing around. That is coming from some of the moderators making some changes to things in the background.
The lava just disappearing nicely.
Yes.
Get that spam happening again. Oh, he's hurting the eyes.
Quite a few. Yeah. Can we refrain from doing that just a little bit?
I think it's just the lag. Probably the command put down again. Kind of mistake I'd make.
And we do have these. We do have the pylons heading on in, the pylon heading on in, just to take out the last of Green's fusion reactors. And that is the last of that big eco center. There is one more here that could be taken out. It does look like that is where those pylons are headed, while the Titans start to clean their way through the bottom of the map, the bottom half of that map. Com coming in is going to get some nice D-guns. That first D-gun going off, second D-gun going off, but not going to get a third.
Some spiders making their way into the middle. Looks like they're gonna get cleaned up.
They only have to get one good volley off though. Those epic recluses deal a lot of damage.
Into the canyon.
Bugger. Behe's trying to push their way in, but they're just taking so much damage from the pulsars as they push on through. 4 pulsars. Even though they're firing into a Behe, still do a lot of damage over time. We do now have the pop-ups making their way in. The first of those defensive towers is starting to get in range of the Behe, but the Behe does not yet have vision of it because the ticks are being cleaned up by that rat, or tick equivalents. These are in fact rascals. But it does look like that. It does look like that first Behe cleaned up, and we're going to get some Soul Invictus here to fight the next one. Titans continuing their pathway down. They're taking out some of these larger construction turrets. One com is trying to make their way in, has taken some damage, but the Aphis is already down, so those Titans have done what they need to do. One more shot onto that com. A com with 16 kills and max rank, so he has been de-gunning his way to keeping everyone in the game this whole time, but unfortunately not quite. Actually, he's going to get away with his life, but even still not quite enough to keep his own base alive. Now we do have that next phase coming in where the Kings have massed up some very, very strong units like the Soul Invictus. It also looks like they have cleaned up a lot of what was going on in the top half of the map with the Scavenger AI.
That's what 4 hours of casting can do to the throat.
Just a little bit. Especially since a lot of these games have been going long, so it's been long periods straight of talking.
I would love to see that scav in the top left start marching down. I was hoping to be able to control it.
Do you know how good that would be if at the end of the game we could just give ourselves a scav in each corner? Take it, like control it ourselves, or like one scav in the corner, one raptors in the corner, and then fight the remaining players. I'd love that. I'd love that. Does look like there is an epic final boss com in the front of the green team, but there is only the one of them. Oh no, that's 50 all Invictus that were just spawned in and taken away. I don't even know what's happening.
Really break the game.
Oh dear.
Whoopsie. Looks like this one's not going to make the YouTube.
I don't know if you guys are seeing all the fallen corpses at the same time.
Yes.
There we go.
It looks like the devs having their fun is causing some interesting bits and pieces to occur.
Yes.
It is the last game of the night after all, so we don't mind too much. Wow, these epic commanders really do work.
Yeah, these things
Yeah,
are really
that
hard
is-
to
Bonus,
kill
isn't it?
because they have damage attenuation, so you need to kill them with lots of different things. The fact that there's so many Sol Invictus attacking it, they are not dealing any real damage to that. You just have to bypass it and then kill the rest of the base. Oh wait, there's another one.
I
Wow.
was gonna say, don't shoot that epic tumbleweed. Or those 50 epic tumbleweeds.
Ah,
Yikes.
Interesting thing, when you kill that, you can actually use res bots to bring it back for yourself. You can
do you
also
need to
wait
put
till
the
it's on very low
500,000 metal
HP,
into it?
and you can use the capture command
Capture
from the
it?
comm on it, and you can capture it. At least that's how it worked the last time I played Scavs, which admittedly was like 6 months ago.
A while ago.
Game's gonna go a little bit faster now that the middle of the map's gone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what happened there?
The huge.
The usual.
Epic tumbleweeds underneath its feet
Yeah.
make things boom.
Down to 3 commanders left for one team.
0 on the other, actually.
I think that's the Scavs. Depending which team you click.
Oh.
6 versus 3 versus 0.
Yep. He's doing. Huh, and they can walk down cliffs. Is there anywhere it can't go?
I want to see it go straight into the very middle.
Oh, really?
As for those of you in chat who are asking why cheat, I think the devs are just playing around with the engine while because this game was essentially over and just seeing what they can throw in and do and give to the players.
Yeah,
We're about
the
to
king
finish
did
off for
officially
the
win
night,
this one.
so I think everyone's just having their own little bit of fun.
Yeah, all of the extra bits and pieces are being spawned in by the mods.
Oh yeah, by the way, you can degun those epic final bosses, just as a heads up. A single degun will kill them, regardless of what it is.
Oh,
Interesting. So Death Spiral on the hunt now.
Yep. That's why it was able to instantly kill the other one, because it did the degun. However, its regular cannon will also kill a comm very, very quickly, so you got to get the angle just right and not let it shoot something behind you. There it goes. Degun, the epic comes.
We need to go to bed.
Yep.
yeah.
I'm already looking up who to raid from these channels. There's only a couple other Beyond All Reason streams going.
Just the one commander left over on that left-hand side now.
while this plays out, I think I might wrap this one up. I'm going to take the very few amount of watches on the AllReasonNoLogic over to Leth's game.
Yes, I think we might do the same on this one. We might wrap up the stream here, and then let the mods and the devs set up the raid however they deem fit. Thanks everyone for joining us. We do really appreciate it. We hope you had some fun tonight. We hope you joined in and played, and we do hope that you end up finding your way over to the AllReasonNoLogic channel and helping support us as we bring you all of these games as we go. Hopefully we'll continue to be here on the Sunday nights as we do enjoy the King of the Hill. We do enjoy bringing it to you. I've been Pradith. Joining me has been Twig and Tank Tom, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Please jump over to that YouTube that we've got, and the Twitch. Hit that like and follow. We appreciate it very much, and we will see you next Sunday. Jump on the YouTube for our weekly recap of the best King of the Hill each week, released on Sundays while we do these streams from the previous week, and then also on the Wednesdays, one of the Road to 25, which Tom is currently experiencing. Predith getting there recently in his 16 episodes of the Road to OS 25. People, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thanks everyone. Catch you next time.
Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode.